You haven't logged in. Okay, so Mr. Chair, we're still missing some people on several items, so office staff are going to reach out to them. But we can start the meeting, and if any item is missing someone, we'll hold that till the end. I'll let you know which ones those are.
Okay, it's now past 1 o'clock. We can get started. Good afternoon. During the declared emergency in the City of Toronto, Committee of Adjustment virtual public hearings are being conducted by electronic means through WebEx, an online digital platform, and streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. These measures are necessary to comply with physical distancing requirements and a provincial order that limits attendance at public gatherings. This will be a virtual public hearing, and participants who have registered in advance will be able to make their presentations to the committee using WebEx, an online event that is being moderated by city staff. Anyone wishing to view the hearing may do so by watching on YouTube. Participants who have registered in advance will be connecting either by their computer, a phone or tablet app, or by telephone. All participants will automatically be muted on entry, and when your item is called, each participant will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. Only the committee members will be participating by video. Actually, we have 3 members here present at the council chamber and 1 member participating electronically. Any registered participants will be participating by audio only. We ask that you also mute your devices until you are called on to speak. Land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the lands we're meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. In accordance with Sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act, 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning bylaw that apply to the property, permissions to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consents to sever properties to create new lots. Anyone who wishes to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, your address, and an email address, because Committee of Adjustment and the TLAB will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, decisions may be appealed to the Toronto local appeal body, TLAB, or in some limited circumstances, to the local planning appeal tribunal, or LPAT. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. The hearing procedure will be as follows. We'll call each item in the order listed on the agenda. In the virtual world, we proceed in order, item by item, and we don't vet like we do when we do in person. So where an application is uncontested, the applicant or agent will proceed with a presentation only if required. The committee may ask questions and or take the matter into the committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant or agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. Mr. Palmer, who's watching the clock, will comment when you're reaching the 5-minute mark. When addressing the committee, please clearly state your name and address for the record when you start off, and please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. At Committee of Adjustment, we deal with planning issues. We don't deal with construction issues or issues of personal issues between neighbors. The applicant or agent, where a matter is contested, and we have a number of those today where we have a number of people present or have pre-registered to speak. So the applicant or agent will proceed first and makes a presentation to the committee. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer an application if substantially revised, in order to ensure that the revised application is accurate and that all those entitled to notice of the application are informed of the changes. Then individuals either in support or usually opposed to the application will be invited to speak. Again, those speakers are given a maximum of 5 minutes. On some of the applications today where we have over 10 people registered to speak, when we're doing applications in person. The parties meet outside the room, and typically they'll appoint a few spokespersons, and not all people who show up at the council chamber necessarily make a presentation or a deputation. But in the virtual world, there isn't that opportunity to sort of meet with all the neighbors and decide who the speakers are going to be. So we may have situations where upwards of 8 to 10 people are going to speak on a particular application. I just ask that if only one speaker from each household, and as well, if we have a lot of speakers, if you could please possibly not use your entire 5 minutes to speak. So once all the speakers have spoken, the applicant is then given an opportunity to come back up to the podium and to rebut only those issues and respond and answer the questions and issues that have been raised by the neighbors, not to raise new information. And again, if there's 10 people speaking for a long time, and then the applicant needs more than 5 minutes to address all those concerns, I will use my discretion in the circumstances if necessary. So at that point, once the agent or applicant has responded, that'll mark the end of discussion. The applicant is then taken into committee for a decision. And just like to introduce the members of the panel here today. On my left, Mr. Taylor. On my right, Mr. Palmer. Electronically participating, Sophia Ruddick, and I'm Michael Clark, and I'm your chair. Are there any declarations of interest of panelist staff on the matters before us this afternoon? No. Okay. Deferral requests, I guess, Madam Chair, Secretary Treasurer, we can deal with those as we proceed through. But I just will make a note. I think you advised me that there is one file to be closed, item 29. So perhaps we can do that at now or at the end of the meeting?
We can do that
Okay.
now.
So a motion. What can you advise? What's that was one of the
applicant-
matters. I could say that most of the applications before us this afternoon are deferrals from July 14th when we had connectivity issues and we had to cancel the meeting and didn't proceed with the entire afternoon session and part of the morning session as well.
So we received an email from the agent for the applicant saying the owner has decided to cancel the Committee of Adjustment application. Please close our file. We will not be attending the hearing on August 13th. And we've already advised one of the registered speakers, so I don't think they're on the phone anymore.
Okay. Okay, so can we have a motion to close the file, please, for 48 Lake Crescent, item number 29.
Mr. Chair, I'll move closure of item number 29, 48 Lake Crescent.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Seconder for that. Thank you, Mr. Palmer. All in favor? Okay, file is closed. Okay, so the first item we're going to hear this afternoon.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, before we begin, there are a couple new call-in users that have called in anonymously, so if I can just get their identity before we start. Okay, so we have a call-in user 34 647 444. Hello? Hello, call-in user with the phone number 647 444.
What have you got going on your phone?
Hi.
Next door to us today is up for committee of adjustment.
Hi.
From about a month ago. That month ago date,
Sorry, call-in user 647 444.
because technical difficulty.
Call-in user 35 dialing in from an anonymous number.
I called in Vicky Stanek for 69 Humbervale, but I don't know what it comes up. It's a rollover number, so I don't know what's showing up on your
Perfect.
screen.
Thank you, Ms. Stanek.
Okay.
Yeah.
Call-in user number 36 416 895.
Hi, it's Judy Gibson here again. I got cut off and I had to dial back in.
Okay, so you will now be call-in user number 36. Thank you, Ms. Gibson. Call-in user number 34 with a phone number 647 444.
That could be the 6990.
Yeah, so can I just get your first and last name and which item you're speaking towards, please?
My first name is Terry Semenik. speaking in regards to number 7 Benedict.
23.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay.
Okay, so, Mr. Chair, so far, we're ready to go from items 17 to 25.
Okay, so the first item we're going to deal with this afternoon is item number 14, JOCADA. And the speaker, we only have one speaker, the agent, Diana Ferry. You with us?
Yes, that's me.
Welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good. So this is an application to construct a second-story addition above the existing dwelling. There's only one variance, which is the side yard setback on the north side lot line, which is deficient by half of a meter. That's all we have, and we have supporting material. We have neighbors in support. Was there anything that you'd like to add before I take this matter into committee to see if they have any questions? I don't think we need a presentation from you.
No, nothing really else that I wanted to add other than we did add to our Committee of Adjustment file decision and orders from the nearby community of houses that had similar variances and were approved.
Okay.
There's 4 total, so that they're all pretty much the same as ours, if not even closer to the property line than ours.
Okay, and
ranging
again, it's an
from-
existing condition. You're doing a second story, so the first story is already there, right?
You got it. Yeah.
There's nothing you can do about it, but you have no height variances, no gross floor area or
No.
FSI or anything like that. It's
Correct.
just that. So pretty straightforward. So committee members, if there's no questions, unless there is, could I have a motion, please?
No, just one question. The variance applies to the one side yard, but it looks like you've got 1.24 on the other side yard. Why doesn't it apply there?
It doesn't apply on the other side because we're not building on top of the garage.
Joseph Kennedy's here.
But the existing garage is already offending the side yard on that side? And it still should be showing up as a variance. Shouldn't it? Not if it's existing? Okay. Because this one is existing
what-
plus it's going to be added on top, right? But not the other side. So we only do have the one variance.
Yes.
It was a good question and good clarification. So that's all we have before us. So if someone's prepared to make a motion.
Yeah, I'm prepared to make a motion. Having reviewed the plans, it appears the variances are minor in nature, meet the 4 tests of the Planning Act, so I'm prepared to move for approval. And it doesn't look like we need any conditions.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Mr. Palmer, seconder for that motion. Thank you, Ms. Reddick. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 18 is 63 Glenaden Avenue East. It's an application to construct a second-story addition above the existing dwelling, a new front porch and a new rear deck. And there are 10 variances we have before us in this application. Just the agent, Nafisa Zangiabadi, and the owner of the property, who is just available here for questions. We have no other speakers registered. Welcome.
Good afternoon. This is Nafi Zangiabadi. I'm the agent.
Yes.
This application is same as the previous application that you just spoke. It's constructing a second story on top of the existing dwelling.
Yes.
And most of the variances are because we're keeping the exact same footprint of the main floor and building on top of that. The variances regarding to the new construction, which is the front porch and the deck, are very nominal.
Yeah.
And I'll go through them one by one.
I don't know if it's necessary for you to go through one by one. I'm going to see if the committee members feel that they need a motion. I note that there are no communication by neighbors in opposition. There's no comments or concerns from city staff, either planning or from the forestry department or from transportation or anyone else. So I don't know if you have to walk us through all of these variances. Let's just see if committee members have any questions for you.
Sure.
Okay. And if there's no questions, given that there's no concerns from departments, no conditions proposed, is anyone prepared to make a motion on this application?
I'm prepared to leave a motion to support the request for this variance. I find them to be minor in nature and consistent with the four principles set out in the Planning Act, the four test.
Thank you, Ms. Ruddick. Seconder for Ms. Ruddick's motion. Mr. Taylor, all in favor? You have unanimous approval.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nafisha. Okay. Next application is item number 19, 14th 37th Street.
Good afternoon, Chairman.
Can you hold on,
my name
please? We have the agent Oris Stoyanovsky, and we have registered speakers on this. The chair and vice chair of the Long Branch Neighborhood Association, Ms. Mercado and Ms. Gibson, as well as the neighbor at 1237th Street, right next door.
Ron Jameson is not speaking today.
Okay, well, that's probably okay. We still have two speakers from Long Branch, which I believe is,
And
two speakers is certainly
Sorry.
sufficient.
Bernice Andrews was listed to speak. So Vic Mosquito will be speaking on her behalf.
Okay, that's her agent?
Yeah, he's representing her.
Okay. And we have, on this application, we have a planning report for information dated April 2020. We have objection letter, we have communication from Long Branch, we have the Long Branch checklist. I don't know if that was that. I think it was it adjourned in order for that to take place at some point, I believe?
Yes.
Okay. And we have a planning memo, like I said, for information. It's not, it's a planning report for information. It doesn't advise us that they're in favor or not in favor. It's just for information, as sometimes does happen. And we do have letters of objection, quite a number, 8. So let's start off. Is everyone with us? I guess we have Vic Machito speaking for the neighbor. So we'll hear first from the applicant, Oris Stanikowski, to make a presentation, and then we'll hear from the concerned neighbors.
Sure. Gentlemen Committee, my name is Oris Stanikowski. I'm an agent on this application, also an architect on this application. So we are proposing to build a 2-story single-family replacement dwelling, and we are asking only for 2 variances for height and FSI. Variance for height is really minor, as it was mentioned in planning report 2. It's only 0.4 meters, and also the parapet height, it's only for the front portion of the building above the front entrance. And also the variance for FSI is basically just the product of the design. In terms of design, what we're trying to do is minimize the impact as much as we can, and we increase the side yard setbacks. We are within the building length, and we are within the front yard setback as well as rear yard setback, as well as lot coverage. So basically, the footprint of the building is within permitted zoning bylaws. And if someone would decide to lower the FSI and move to the bungalow, basically he would be permitted to build.
Sir, can you speak a little bit slower and a little bit clearer, please? I'm just having a little more, as you go on, I'm having more trouble here following you.
Sure. So I was saying, since we are within the setbacks and within the lower coverage, the footprint is within the zoning bylaws. So basically excavation is within the zoning bylaw, and would have an impact on neighboring trees exactly the same way, with or without basically coming to adjustment. It's within the zoning bylaw. The owner could excavate this footprint. Also, if you look at the letter of objection, the position brought as an example number 77, where Max Dita was from the Forestry Department objecting the application. Here in our case, we have four memos from Forestry, all signed by Max Dita, and none of those asking for deferral or any additional information or objection. So basically, 4 times the very same gentleman, and I didn't ask for any additional information. I thought that it would be appropriate. Therefore, we think that it's minimal in terms of impact and the vortex, and would like to ask for your approval.
So the tree, you have the tree memo. They were looking for variances 1 and 2, their conditions 1 and 2 for application to injure the tree. It looks like the Long Branch Association is not in favor due to the trees. I hear you're pointing out that, you're not coming here with a whole whack of variances. You've limited it to, you've tried to comply where you can. And
Also,
I just wanted to check one thing here. So you only have like several, only have a few variances. So that's your position. So let's hear from, perhaps let's hear from the neighbor first, the next door neighbor who's most directly affected, and then we'll hear from the Long Branch people. So we're looking for Vic Machido on behalf of the neighbor number 12.
Hello?
Hello?
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
My name is Bernice Andrews. I'm speaking.
Oh, I thought Vic Machido was speaking for you.
Well, I was sick. I had a heart attack, but I'm okay now.
Oh, okay. Glad you're doing better. So we'd like to hear your concerns. There's a slight height variance. There's a slight parapet hit. I guess the issue is the floor space index. The applicant has told us that he has, tried to minimize the variances. So can we hear what your objection is to this, what he's proposing? Okay,
I'm going to read what I wrote. Hello, my name is Bernice Andrews, and I live at 1237th Street, which is directly south of 1437. I filed a number of concerns with the application in January 2020 to Nicole Milrose. I would like to add some color to my written comments. The applicant is requesting to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. Based on the increased size of the property and the architectural drawings, which include a redesigned basement, I am assuming that significant digging and pouring of a new foundation will take place. I have 6 trees that are within 1 meter of the property line that I share with the applicant. Many of them are located between the 2 houses, not at the front of the house or in the backyard. While I am not an arborist, my son-in-law did measure a couple of the trees, and they determined that the diameters would be between 30-40 centimeters. One tree, which is located on the northeast corner of my porch, has a diameter between 40 to 50 centimeters. According to the tree protection policy and specifications for construction near trees, July 2016, Section 2, trees located on adjacent properties such as mine fall within the 6-meter area of consideration as per Municipal Code, Chapter 813, Article 2. In addition, Table 1 on page 6 of the document indicates that the minimum tree protection zone for the trees located between the homes would be 2.4 meters and 3.0 meters for the tree at the front of my property. I have just learned this morning that the builder submitted an arborist report. I have had no time to review this document in detail. However, it clearly indicates that 2 of my trees will need to be injured to allow this development to proceed. The arborist proposes that construction be allowed to commence, and they will monitor the potential impact to the trees. If the project commences and the trees are going to be significantly injured, they will likely need to be removed. It is highly unlikely the project will stop once construction has commenced, and I do not want to live beside a hole in the ground. While I would prefer that you reject this proposed development outright, at minimum, I request that the committee defer a decision on this development until I am able to review this document in greater detail, until the city evaluates the submission. I am not a neighbor that lives 3 doors away on another street. I live next door to this proposed development, and I will have to live with whatever decision the committee makes. This development will significantly impact 2 of my trees, which may require them removed properly, which includes the trees on it, should not be negatively impacted by this development. Thank you.
Thank you. So you're saying you just got an arborist report, arborist report was just submitted? Because I believe the
yeah.
Long Branch Neighborhood Association, Ms. Mercado and Ms. Gibson, one of the 2 of them is going to be talking specifically about the trees. That's what they
Okay.
typically do. So we hear your
Yeah.
concerns. You have 6 border trees, and you're going to be affected, and you're opposed to the application. So
Yes.
thank you, Ms. Andrews. And we also have, I was just reading along, we also have your other letter that you submitted.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Stay on the line. Don't, keep listening. So the next speaker, I guess, is I guess the 2 people from the Long Branch. So who's going to speak first and who's going to speak second? It's up to them. Christine Mercado?
Christine Mercado will go first.
Okay. Hello.
Christine?
Hello. Yes. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Hello?
Hello. We can hear you.
Okay, this is Christine Mercado. I'm the chair of the Long Branch Neighborhood Association, and I'm calling in today with concerns with regarding the FSI that's proposed on this lot. So we actually feel that this is not prevailing FSI in the neighborhood, on the street, on the block, or in the broader neighborhood. So it's actually contrary to policy 4.1.5C. So that speaks to prevailing height, massing, scale, and density of the dwelling types of nearby properties. So I did do a lot evaluation, which I defined by the RD zone that surrounds this property, and that totals 340 lots. Right. So if you look at the lots that are comparable, so they have the same dimensions as what's being proposed, you're only looking at 145 lots that are. There are 145 lots that are 50-foot frontage, and there's 225 lots that are bylaw compliant. So out of those 145 lots, 9 lots are 0.42 or over, and the only one that's similar is actually on the block, which is next door at 0.46. So in looking at these 9 lots, I actually found out that 5 of them are actually triplexes and semis. So they aren't even a comparable building type as well. So when you're looking at 0.42, I think it needs to be put into perspective that when you look at what's on 37th Street, which is the most important block, it is a newer and well-kept, it's a well-kept home. Homes that are on this block, they aren't necessarily need to be of replacement. And if you look at the so it's not necessarily in need of replacement, but then if you're looking at the broader neighborhood, this is not a prevailing FSI either. So when you do the math, you're looking at about 500 extra square feet.
Sure,
And
you're talking...
At the top end of this scale. The 0.35 is at the top end of this scale, and then they're asking for a bit more. So our question is, considering that the environmental policies that are there that have not been considered, and then you've got a 0.42 FSI that's not prevailing. We do feel that this requires a better review, and it should be, the FSI should be less than what it is right now. So it is an exception considering the environmental policies. And just because I have a couple minutes or so, I did want to speak to the fact that a couple weeks ago we expressed our concerns about the process, and that the environmental concerns were not being adopted as per PE 25.1, and that's doing arborist reports and they would actually be presented in full to the Committee of Adjustment. What's missing here today is the Arborist report that's been submitted as of yesterday, and I haven't even read it. I haven't had the opportunity. But also what's more important is that City Forestry hasn't read it. So the impacts have not been evaluated by an impartial party. And so right now, there is no position for the city right now, but they also don't have complete information. And as per your direction, I did pursue my counselor about why this process hadn't been changed, and he in turn directed me to Mr. Michael Mitzi, so the Director of Zoning and Planning, which we spoke to last night, and he did state that to us that the process is behind. So there are and he did agree with us that complete information isn't necessarily being submitted because the process is about 2 years behind. So with this in mind, I would hope we're actually trying to keep all of this environmental information that we've submitted up front and as per what the council direction was in 2018.
Thank you. Can I just ask a quick question? When you're talking about your lot study or whatever, you were talking about the prevailing character. That was of all homes, not just homes that have been repurposed or rebuilt or anything like that, correct? So you were doing it
sorry,
like...
can you repeat that?
You're saying in terms of your lot study and saying, you were just of all the lots, including the ones that have not been improved, in terms of talking about the prevailing character, not just the ones that have been
Correct.
rebuilt, right?
Correct. So
Either
we're going
topped
from
up
city
or new
data.
homes.
No, we were going from city data, and
Yeah.
then we do a walk around, okay?
Right.
So feet on the ground.
Right, so of all the homes. So with the planning department, and as you know, they gave us a report for information only, they didn't give a recommendation, but they do point out that, where did I just lost it here? Yeah, it says, planning staff note the increase in the proposed forest space index from 0.35 to 0.43 is less than similarly approved applications on the street. So they're not talking about all the houses on the street, but the ones that have been rebuilt, they're saying it's actually less than the ones that have been approved on the street. I'll just point that out.
Looking at. Yeah, Mr. Clark, I can't speak to what they're speaking to. I do know the one next door
Yes.
Is a comparable lot that is larger for sure, but I don't know if they're just looking at the FSI or if I don't know if they're looking at comparable lots either, because FSI doesn't mean anything unless you're looking at a 50-foot lot.
Right. Anyway, all I'm just pointing is just this is one of the comments
FSI,
they've made.
But they're on smaller lots.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously,
Yep.
the percentage on a smaller lot is going to be a smaller house than the same percentage on a larger lot. But they do point out that 0.43 is less than similarly approved applications on the street. So anyone else have any questions for Ms. Mercado before we move on to Ms. Gibson? Okay, and I assume Ms. Gibson is talking about the trees? So thank you, Ms. Mercado. Yeah, is Judy Gibson there?
Okay, can you hear me? Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me, Mr. Chair?
Yes, we can.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great, perfect, thank you. Yes, I am the chair of the Tree Canopy Preservation and Enhancement Committee, so I will be speaking about the trees. I also just wanted to follow up, though, on the discussion you had with Ms. Mercado and planning's comments, because I don't know, but I suspect some of those FSIs that they were referring to may have been approved prior to OPA 320 being finalized. And as you know, in OPA 320, when those changes were incorporated into the official plan, it now refers to the prevailing FSI, which Ms. Mercado did show is not prevailing, is what they're requesting.
Right, and that prevailing is both of the, the old stock and the new stock altogether.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
And where this impacts this particular application and where we're concerned about and where you heard Ms. Andrews being concerned about is that the policies in the official plan emphasize the need to protect the existing urban forest. And it says we must not only protect the existing urban forest, but also enhance it. And this application does not provide information that they're doing that, actually. And I don't see my, I'm sorry, I don't see my letter up. It was dated August 6th, and there's a chart I'd like to refer to for the committee, please. And what I'm referring to is the city data that was released January 2020. This is it. If you could just pull it up. Yes, thank you. That's it. This shows the tree canopy change by Etobicoke York Ward. The full ward is attached to this. This is for Ward 3. And it shows how Long Branch is the neighborhood that has been impacted the most as far as loss of tree canopy. In 2009, when the city set the goal of achieving a tree canopy of 40%, our tree canopy was at 26.5%. Since then, it's declined down to now 15% as it was measured in 2018. And development applications that don't take the trees into account and don't put in sufficient tree protection is the single most controllable factor on it. So preserving our large trees is critical to the community, and as you've heard, it's critical to the neighbors, as Ms. Andrews outlined. So we're asking that the trees be protected in this application. We're asking the Toronto Complete Street guidelines also stated that green infrastructure is vital to achieving the city's environmental goals, and it is integral to the city as other infrastructure. So it's extremely important. There's bylaw protected trees at Ms. Andrews' property at 1237th Street. There's bylaw protected trees at 1637th Street. And it's within the 6 meters that the applicant was to provide information of. And up until last night, they were showing a very large silver maple that was located there on their plans is only 20 centimeters in diameter, when in reality it's 170 to 175 centimeters in diameter. So the implications of the build will certainly injure this tree, and we don't know whether it's going to survive, and this is what we're asking the committee to consider. We're asking the committee to look at this application in the sense that they're asking for a greater FSI. We believe the applicant could modify their plans to better protect the trees, and that's what we're asking for. These trees are valuable members of the Long Branch tree canopy. It's a key defining characteristic of Long Branch. These trees will contribute their environmental benefits to the neighbors and to the community for many years to come, and they provide much needed green infrastructure to the residents. We had initially asked for a deferral so the applicant could modify their plans. They have not, so therefore we're asking for it to be refused, given that the variance is being requested, in particular the FSI variance, not building on the existing footprint, is going beyond it and excessively will impact these protected trees. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Gibson. Could I just ask you a general question, and it's, refers to, and again, you're bringing up your chart there, and it's a very valid chart that Long Branch is the most percentage change, minus 43%, and then you said 10 years later, you've had further losses of another. So that's a given. It's happening through the city, especially with new development. But my question to you is, on a general, this application is subject to urban forestry conditions 1 and 2, which one is like a permit to injure a tree. So, and I take it you can't replace a 70 centimeter caliper tree, but you can put 7, 10 caliper peas. My question is, as a condition of giving permission for people to redevelop a property, potentially injure or affect mature trees, does urban forestry not have the ability, and do they not have applicants who are doing that, and again, in their own best interest as well, for the whole, to put enough replacement trees to make up for that? Like, I agree,
So
if this tree,
is actually,
if they get to
sorry,
destroy
the
this tree
amount
or
of
injure this
replacement-
tree, and not have to do anything, I really do agree with you, that's a problem. But does not urban forestry have the ability to at least get the applicants to, in exchange for injuring a mature tree, to do sufficient plantings in order to at least partially make up for that and help the tree canopy in the Long Branch area? That's just my question. Isn't that done as a matter of
planting
course?
is important, but planting is important, absolutely, but planting will never replace losing a large mature tree, because you'd have to plant far more trees. When you look at the canopy of the trees, and I included a photograph of the canopies of the trees, I don't know if you want to scan down to that image. It shows the amount of canopy coverage. So if you lose those trees and you lose that canopy, you have to plant so many trees, and it's going to take, and not all of them that would survive, to replace the green infrastructure and the benefits there are. So, and also the other point is urban forestry's conditions are that they have to replace trees, but those trees don't necessarily have to be planted at 1437th Street, nor will there be enough room to plant enough trees necessarily at 1437th Street. So the loss can be to the neighborhood completely. So the neighborhood loses, and that's why we're down to now 15%. So yes, we need to plant a lot of trees in Long Branch, but we also need to retain every single healthy tree we have so that we can plant trees and get to the 40%.
And then I agree with you that
that's what our point is.
yeah, and then it takes, obviously, put younger trees, they take 5-10 years to mature, and some of those trees have been there for 40, 50, 60 years. So thank you for answering my question. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions for Ms. Gibson or Ms. Mercado? Or otherwise, we'll go back to Mr. Stoyanovsky to respond to the concerns of the neighbors. Mr. Stoyanovsky.
Hello.
Okay, can you
Hi,
please
yes.
respond to the neighbors' concerns, please?
Absolutely. And absolutely, we share the concern about trees, and we truly do care about them. And if you would look at the site plan of our proposal, you would notice right away that we are suggesting to put our garage exactly in the same spot where the existing garage is. Also, we are proposing to keep the existing driveway and entrance and curb cut exactly where it is. We are just refinishing it. So if you would zoom into the front of the building, it's existing curb cut, it's existing entrance, there is an existing driveway, and there is an existing single car garage, which we increased to double car garage, which is kind of natural for 50-foot lot. So here, if you look at the footprint of this building, you could clearly see that it's the same as number 16, and maybe even smaller. And also, this footprint is within the zoning bylaw, which means that trees should be protected regardless, with committee or without committee. And also, this application will go to the forestry, and without forestry permission, building permit would not be granted and construction would not start simply. So forestry looked at this application 4 times. They didn't ask for any additional information. They didn't ask for the feral.
Sir, you're mumbling. Can you please try to slow down, please? And speak a little, enunciate a little clearer. I'm losing you again. Thank you.
Sorry. Yeah, so, and also 4 times we had a memo from forestry not asking for it. We believe it should be sufficient. But we did hire the arborist who prepared the report. We submitted the report. If it is necessary to review it, we are fine with that as well. But in terms of trees, they should be protected regardless of any activity on site. And the footprint controls the location of the garage and driveway is really minimal in terms of impact, and it's within the permitted by zoning bylaws boundaries. Also, the example that was used at number 77, which is a little bit further north, walking distance, maximum permitted FSI over there is 0.6. So we could see that within the same neighborhood, we have maximum permitted FSI ranging from 0.35 to 0.6. And
so are there other examples on the street above 0.4?
Yes, as per planning report,
yes.
There is some. Yeah, it just we didn't want to load anything last minute. My apologies for arborist report, and we just rely on planning report that could be trusted. And this per planning report, there is examples in the neighborhood. The only example that was found by association was actually for Severance, number 77, that was permitting up to 0.6. If you look at the second floor plan, actually, we would see that in terms of building shape, we have a significant step above the garage, about 5 feet in the front and also on the side as well. We have a significant step behind the garage, which is 4'4". So in terms of the side, we're trying to minimize the building from every corner as much as we can. And it's absolutely evident in the front of the building, we have a dramatic step back. There is no wasted space inside. There is no open to below or above spaces, no inflated envelope. That's why we think it is really within the fourplex. And the trees should be protected regardless. we will work with forestry to do that, and without forestry approval, a building permit will not be granted, regardless.
Okay, sir, you also mentioned something about 16 next door, that it's a larger footprint? Did you say that?
If you would move to the site plan, please, if you could compare visually.
Location map, yeah.
Well, we are shorter, that's for sure, and we are matching in the front.
Okay. Okay, committee members, any questions? Sir, you're finished then, or is there anything you'd like to add to that? You're good? Orest?
Yes, that's it. If there are any questions, I would be happy to answer.
Okay. So, any questions for either the agent or any of the neighbor or the Long Branch people, or are you ready for someone ready to make a motion on this application? And we do have the forestry condition.
Sorry, just a question for the applicant. The arborist report was submitted yesterday to the city, and just wondering why it wasn't completed earlier.
It was not completed earlier because it was not requested by forestry, and also it was just an unfortunate time. We were not able to find the arborist due to some delays.
And you said you're going to have to still keep working with urban forestry before you can get a building permit to resolve
yes,
conditions
absolutely.
1 and 2.
Yes, absolutely. We are happy with conditions 1 and 2. We would welcome to put them on file if you would require. Definitely, we would be working with forestry, and without forestry approval, building permit would not be granted. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, in my opinion, there's been two dominant issues that have been brought to the table with respect to this application, forestry and FSI. With respect to forestry, I'm content that our professional, competent urban forestry department, through their conditions 1 and 2 and the process involved with them, can satisfactorily address the forestry concerns. With respect to FSI, I think hearkening back, Mr. Chair, to your comment, this isn't a numbers game. It's a case of assessing a proposal in its context. And what compels me strongly in this case is the fact that the proposal does not require any front yard, rear yard, or side yard adjustments. In other words, it fits entirely within the building envelope for the lot. So I'm quite content that what's proposed here is appropriate, and that all the requirements of the four tests under the Planning Act are met. I'm quite satisfied in tabling a motion to approve, subject to urban forestry conditions 1 and 2.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor, for that motion, with reasons. The seconder for that motion? Mr. Palmer, all in favor? Oh, no, it's unanimous. You have unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Soronowski. And thank you, neighbors and Long Branch Neighborhood Association. We'll see you again on other applications this afternoon. Okay, our next application is item number 20. It's an unopposed application. There's only one person registered, the agent. It's 1037 Royal York Road. It's an application to construct a second-story addition above the existing dwelling, a one-story rear addition, and a new rear deck. There are 4 variances. Planning is requesting, as a condition of approval, that it be built substantially in accordance. Not sure with which plan, but we can figure that out. We have minutes of the previous meeting. This is again one of our July 14th deferrals. And so planning is asking for that condition. And then urban forestry is requesting condition number 2. We have cover letters. Mr. Benkowski.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Excellent. So can you, I don't know if we need so you're happy with the suggested condition by community planning that it be built substantially in accordance with the March 10, 2020 plans?
I am.
Talks about all the plans, doesn't talk about one plan, but.
No, Mr. Chair, I just want to point out the planning report does refer to the date of March 10th.
Yes.
But the plans you have on file are dated as revised on March 13th.
Okay, perhaps Mr. Benkowski can speak to that.
Yes. So basically what's happened is we were actually before you for a hearing back in February, and there was a notice that went out that had the actual side yard setback request flipped. So the north was being requested on the south. So we adjourned it then.
Right.
Yes. So essentially what's happened is we've gone back and forth with planning, just dealing with the side yard setbacks. So we've actually indented both side yard setbacks in from the existing side walls at the front where the addition is not occurring. And in fact, both of the eave requests are for the existing roof at the front. They are not for any of the addition portion at the rear.
Okay. So to tie it to the plans, we have the right plan identification? I assume you're content with that. Is it okay to refer to that March, or there's a further plan after you made those jog-ins of the side yards?
I am just looking at it now, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, I guess
I'm looking at the one stamp revised 202 March 13th, 2020 by committee. If that's true, Mr. Chair, Ms. Bartosik, then those would be the ones to go with, correct?
Okay, so the planning report, and it erroneously refers to the March 10th plan. It should be the March 13th plan?
Correct. The ones on file dated March 13th, 2020.
I see. Okay. That's okay. Barb? So you have the right reference to that, assuming the committee is content with that condition. And then there's also the condition on urban forestry. So this is a top-up and an addition, not a new bill.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. Let's see. Like I said, there's no one else, no neighbors here, and no other city departments. So let's see if committee members have any questions for you, or if someone's ready to make a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll move approval. I find the variances meet the 4 tests under the Planning Act. So my motion would be to approve, subject to urban forestry condition 2 and the planning condition adjusted to reflect a March 13th date as opposed to March 10th.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Seconder for Mr. Taylor's motion. Sophia Radek, all in favor? Unanimous approval, Mr. Benkowski.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, our next application is 29 Lorraine Gardens. This is an application for a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. There are 8 variances. We have an arborist report. We have planning requesting condition of approval that it be built substantially in accordance with the revised site plan. And we do have 2 letters of objection. And we have urban forestry requesting conditions 2 and 3. Okay. And appearing on this application, we have Michael Flynn as agent, and we have the neighbors at 27 and 31 Lorraine Gardens. We have both adjacent neighbors who've registered, and we have Michael Flynn as agent. Mr. Flynn.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Okay, can you please give us a just a brief? Now you see the community planning is looking for a condition of approval about substantial in accordance with the revised site plan, and also window treatments that we often see on ravine type properties. You know, bird-friendly window treatments and exterior lighting, dark sky compliant, and new plantings of native species.
Yes, and we have no issue with the suggested
Okay.
conditions.
Okay, so perhaps with your permission, if you'd like me to go and just hear from the neighbors as to what their concerns are, and you can have a chance to respond?
Sure.
Okay. So are the neighbors, is Iwa Mucha there, please, from 27 Lorraine Gardens?
Yes. My objection is to the section 3 and section 4.
You mean variances 3
Sideback,
and 4?
yes, sideback.
Yeah.
Variances, yes.
Yeah, and we
Objections
have the
to the
letters,
3
we
and
have your
number
letter
4.
as well.
Yes. Yes.
No, that's
So,
Catherine Rector.
for me and my husband, the sideback from the east side of the building from 7.5 meters to 5.11, it's a huge difference. It's and it's 2.5 meters. So for us, it's not the minor but major thing. On the other side, this wall, proposed building, it's gonna be almost.
Ma'am, can you talk a little clearer, please? You're breaking, can you stand closer to this microphone or whatever you're talking into?
Yes, I will try.
So you say your
Do you hear me better now?
okay, you say your concern is variances 3 and 4, did you say? I just want to know what your concerns are, because you made some reference to a number.
Yes, okay. So yard setback and the east side of the building.
The east side, your setback, item variance 3.
Yes.
So
That's right. Variance number 3.
yes.
So it means that proposed building, it's gonna be built 2 almost and a half meter closer to the proper side yard setback. So it's not it's major. It's almost 31%.
It's 7.5, it's 7.5, and they want to do 5.11, right? We don't look at percentages. The requirement is 7.5, where the building depth is greater than 17 meters, and the proposed on the east side is 5.11. So it's like 2 meters, 2.2 meters less than what it's supposed to. Yeah. And you said there was another one?
Centimeters.
Right, and you're the property on that side, correct? Your property,
Yes,
27, is on that side.
Correct.
Great. And also, I have several letters from your neighbor on 31. We don't have a letter from you, do we? Did you send us in a letter?
You do.
You do? Okay, I'm just trying to find it here.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yes, I did.
Objection. Okay, hold on a second. I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Rector, Catherine, Dorothy.
Yeah, and you have a letter. Send it to me. Dated July the 7th.
July the 7th? Does anyone have that letter? I have the one from the rectors, and several letters or something from the rectors. But in any way, so your concern is the east side setback, and you said one other, what's your other concern?
Other concern is the height of the platform.
Okay.
Which is the section number 4.
Yep.
And my problem is elevation of the grade level. Because it's a ravine property, it's a quite big drop towards the ravine. And we see that the difference in elevation is 1.43 centimeters, but it's measured from the street level. And the property drops significantly towards the ravine. So it's the platform is going to be elevated much above 2 meters, 2.5 meters.
Okay. Okay, so thank you. We'll have the applicant will respond to your concerns in his rebuttal.
Yeah.
Okay. And so now I guess that's all you've had to say. We'll go to the other neighbor, Mr. Rector. Is Mr. Rector there?
Yes, I'm here.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So we have your letter of objection and your email.
Yes.
I'd like to just give us a little presentation.
Well, we have several concerns basically, but the main concern we have right now is the sign was not posted near the street so people could read about the hearings, but that's not a big issue. We have a privacy fence through a cedar tree hedge, which we understand will be retained, and I'd like to know how it's going to be retained. Will we put an orange fence around it or something? We have a swimming pool right there, and kids are swimming and so on. But we'd like to make sure that the cedar hedge is retained, although the hedge is on the property of number 29. That was one thing. And the house is basically, it's bigger than the property. It's as Eva pointed out, it's too close to her side of the house and our side of the house. And so the house is really bigger than the bylaws, and it's also a bit too high as well. I don't have the numbers right in front of me. And it's too close to the street. So it looks like the house is just being a little bit bigger than it should be for the size of the property.
Mm-hmm.
But I wonder about the bylaws. What's the point of breaking the bylaws? Why would the architect design something that's going to break the bylaws and cause these hearings? I would say that they should really build to the bylaws, design to the bylaws in the beginning, and
well, shouldn't you just tell us about the, people come to committee, that's why the Committee of Adjustment exists. If people had to rely strictly on the bylaws, we wouldn't exist and have thousands of applications before the city every year.
Okay.
But the changes are supposed to be minor. They're supposed to be minor. So please tell me which of the variances that you feel are not minor and also which have the greatest impact from you, which I believe you've done. You're saying the side yards are, it's too big, and then also the side yards.
That's
so,
right.
It's not, to come and say, well, bylaws should be respected is you got a point, but the city does allow for flexibility by having the Committee of Adjustment. So that's why for someone to say bylaws should be complied with is not the greatest issue, but better to come and tell us what are the concerns that you have. Sorry?
Sorry.
So I'm just saying, I more want to hear from you what the impacts are from you. That's what we want to hear, as opposed to just saying the bylaws should be respected.
All right. On our side of the property, the house is really closer to the property line than the bylaws specify.
Right.
That is a concern. But if we have the cedar trees as a privacy fence, then I think that problem is solved.
Okay, sir, has your neighbor, Mr. Flynn's client, have any discussions with you about this, what they're planning on doing, and to give you some comfort? Or have you met, are these people that just bought, are they living there? There should be some dialogue, because you're right, in order to mitigate against the side yard, if there are going to be plantings that make you happy, then, you're entitled to know that. So Mr. Flynn's client or Mr. Flynn has not had a discussion with you? They haven't come around to show you their plans or anything? You don't have, other than getting this application in the mail, have you had discussions with these people?
Pardon? Is there gonna? Oh, I don't know. You better talk, because you know what, and I'm not sure what's the fence. What? My wife cannot talk. I'm supposed to do the talking. Is that correct?
Well, just one speaker, but if she'll have to give us her name if she wants to weigh in and comment on that, that's fine.
Well, here, why don't you take
That's
this
Catherine,
over?
correct? We have her letter.
Yeah, my wife Kathy. She'll speak on my behalf.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Kathy Rector, Catherine Rector, and we live at 31.
So I'm just wondering if the neighbors have spoken to you at all, show you their plans, or had any discussion about how they're going to treat the landscaping on your side or on the other side, for that matter.
Yes, they have. They've been very kind about it. We thank them for it. They don't want to destroy the cedar hedge, I'm sure. But I'm afraid that inadvertently it might happen unless there's really good fencing around these trees and enough space is allowed before the foundation of the house for the cedar trees to live. Now, will there be fencing around there? In the latest picture, it was hard for me to tell.
You mean protection fencing for the hedges to try to protect them through the construction phase? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
So you're saying they're going to try, but they're not giving any, perhaps, I don't know if urban forestry deals with protected hedges as opposed to trees, but if they want to protect it so that it's a benefit to them and to you, and then they don't have to replant new ones, then perhaps they can always protect it. The question is whether the underground work or excavations are going to affect it or not. We're not experts at that. Urban
Actually,
forestry is.
we shouldn't be calling it a hedge. We should be calling it a series of cedar trees. They're very, very tall.
So it's sort of like cedar hedges that sort of you work to divide the property, give it in lieu of a fence. Giving the individual,
Very high fence, yes.
Okay,
And
so
it's
you have had discussions with your new neighbors.
Not with them actually, but with yes.
With their applicant, their
But
contractor, their.
They also want the hedge to be preserved.
Okay.
That's.
So they want to
But
preserve.
what happens if it's not?
Okay.
What happens if the trees die? Do they have to replace them or?
I can't say that, but they're going to try. But the question is, I don't know whose side it's on or anything. But anyway, you can deal maybe the urban forestry people, but again, they're just dealing with the trees, not necessarily with hedges.
Trees, eh?
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for the rectors? Sir, I guess you finished before your wife weighed in on that issue with whether there's been any discussion.
Well, he wondered about the height is too much, the allowance on the east side is too much, the allowance on the west side is too much, and it's too close to the street.
Okay.
All these impact us. The house is too big for property.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Flynn, you've heard the concerns of both neighbors. Can you respond to those concerns?
Yes, sir. First, let me talk about this hedge. This application, not counting the adjournment from the breakdown last month, but the previous deferment, was so that we could replace the house. In other words, resite the house, specifically to protect those hedges, because Mrs. Richter made it very plain to me, and my client was there at the time, that was a great concern of hers. So we actually rotated the house slightly and moved it further away from that property line and that hedges. The hedges belong to my client, I think, but that's neither here nor there. So the intent is to make sure that those trees or hedges are protected and not impacted by construction at all. So that's that. The main issue on this lot, and it goes to the purpose of the Committee of Adjustment, is that this is not your standard flat lot. The lot drops 10 meters from the front property line at the road to the rear property line in the ravine. You can imagine how it affects the ability to design anything that meets the bylaws. So what had to happen here was the house had to be designed to the width, because it couldn't go to the depth of the lot because of the drop of the property. So that's how you get some of these height variances. But aside from that, you don't really see anything that impacts neighbors particularly. And I think they've given it some great thought on how to produce this. For example, the variance for the lowest part of the garage, the entire garage is below the center line of the road, significantly below. So this is not the only house that I've done on this street, and all of these variances are similar to every other variance that we've achieved over the years.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So if I can say, Planning Department has no objections, subject to the conditions that we talked about. Transportation has no objection. TRCA has no objection, subject to conditions, and they are prepared to issue a permit on a final site plan, assuming that the committee approves. Ravine bylaw has no objection. Urban forestry is now satisfied with the arborist report, and no city trees will be impacted, and 3 private trees will be replaced. We have a permit already from urban forestry to destroy those 3 trees and replace them with red oaks, which are, large canopy trees. So eventually they will become significant trees. And going to the point about what could happen if the tree dies or the hedge dies or something like that, forestry requires a tree to live for 2 years when you replant. And we would certainly do that. If we had to replant a second time, we would do that. If we had to replant on the hedges for some reason, we would do that. These people are, as you are aware from the arborist report, there's a large number of trees, and they are very interested in maintaining those trees. So I would suggest that the trees are not an issue and the hedge is not an issue. Excuse me. So once again, we moved the house away from the property line. We rotated it to get it as far away as possible from that hedge. And I think that, we've made good efforts. We've communicated with them. We have emails back and forth on the subject of the hedge and other issues. But generally speaking, I would suggest to you that this application generally is in keeping with the zoning plan, the zoning bylaw and the official plan. It's an appropriate development for these lands. And it's minor in nature from the perspective that it has no negative impact. So I would ask the committee to approve.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, this is on the screen right now is the letter that the neighbor at 27 Lorraine Gardens was referring to.
Right.
It was in your package for the July 14th hearing. I'm not sure why it wasn't included today, but this is her letter in opposition.
That's from 27. And then we had letters from directors at 31. So thank you, Mr. Flynn, for that explanation. Again, the challenge of the lot dropping 30 meters and not being able to go front to back. And what you pointed out, I guess most importantly, is that your clients is interested as the neighbor in retaining that buffer between the properties, and in a perfect world would love to comply with the side yard setback, but is unable to due to the the nature of the lot running front to back with such the extreme change in grade. So committee members, any follow-up questions for either the neighbors or for Mr. Flynn, or are we ready for a motion?
I have a question for Mr. Flynn, or a couple of questions actually. So the grade of the property necessitates that the garage is lower than the road, and there's no way around that, I guess. Is that right?
That's right. We'd have to build the house on substantial stilts if we want to meet that regulation.
I guess you could put it in an elevator. Okay, and the other question...
It's physically impossible, not only on this property, but all of the other properties on that side of the street.
Okay, the other question, I guess, given the grade of the property and the drop towards the back, that requires the front yard setback variance because of the building envelope, I guess, that you're left with because of the grade. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Someone ready to make a motion?
Mr. Chair, I find the requested variances to be minor in nature and meet the other tests under the Planning Act as well. And I move approval, subject to urban forestry conditions 2 and 3 and the planning conditions set out in their July 6th memo.
Okay, thank you. Seconded for Mr. Taylor's motion. Thank you, Mr. Palmer. All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay, thank you,
Chair.
Mr. Flynn.
members.
Thank you, neighbors. Item number 22 is 1356 Islington Avenue. It's another application to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. There are 9 variances. Ravines and TRC have no objection. Urban Forestry is requesting condition 3 or a denial. Item 5. And we have only one registered speaker on this, Gino Caramosino, the agent.
Yes, hi, Mr. Chair and Committee of Adjustments.
Okay, so this is a new dwelling. We have quite a number of variances here. And we have nobody in opposition. And we have a copy of a site-specific zoning bylaw. We have your covering letter supporting materials. There's a deferral request here. Is that from the previous hearing or is that from today?
Well, so that is from the previous hearing.
Okay. Yeah.
Basically, a brief history. The site is dominated by concrete. Goes about 200 feet back. The dwelling that currently sits there is a large, dilapidated bungalow. There are 4, I would say, major trees on the property that are significant. Notice for the denial states back to the March 13th hearing, and the reason it's a denial is because it wasn't indicated what was happening with the trees at that time. The city has indicated that this is a city tree, when in fact it is actually a neighboring tree. So because of the proximity to the driveway, they figured that this tree would have to be either removed or injured, and that's where they went for denial. The other 2 trees, which is I think it's a Colorado spruce in the front and a large walnut tree in the back, basically have concrete right up to the base of the trees. And basically it needs to be removed. We've been working with forestry. We've gone back and forth. We are just tightening up some language. Like, we are basically in agreement as to what they're looking for and what we're looking for. Like, we have all the intentions of preserving all the trees on the site, but the concrete needs to be removed. So we spoke yesterday morning, and he just wants us to clean up a little bit of language, and essentially they're okay to go. So what we're asking for is to have committee consent, conditional on forestry, so we can continue to work with them to get approval.
Okay. And no planning conditions or any neighbors?
No.
Okay. Committee members, any questions for Mr. Carmesino, or are we ready for a motion?
I reviewed it, and I'm satisfied that it meets the 4 tests of the Planning Act, and that with the condition from forestry being the private, the cash in lieu of the tree, that I'm satisfied that the trees will be protected, so I'll move for approval.
Thank you, Mr. Palmer. We're getting a lot of static there. I don't know if that's Mr. Carmesino moving around or his mic is still on. Is everyone muted? Then let's hear some feedback somewhere. We have a seconder for Mr. Palmer's motion. Mr. Taylor, I see you have your hand up. All in favor? Okay, you have unanimous approval. Thank you, sir. Subject to the conditions.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, before we move on to item number 23, we just have a new call-in user, so if I can just see who that is. Call-in user number 386474444.
Yes, hello, that's me.
Hi, can I get your first and last name?
It's Terry Semenik.
And you are speaking on the next item 23, correct?
7 Benedict, I believe, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir.
That's next up. Yeah. So item number 23, 7 Benedict Road.
Great timing.
This is an application for a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. along the east side and a second-story addition above the proposed garage. No, sorry, I'm on the wrong one. My mistake. Hold on. Hold on. My mistake. Hold on. Lost my place here. Okay, 23. Okay. Okay, this is an application, new detached dwelling with an attached garage. There are 5 variances. And we have planning asking us to refuse variance 2 for FSI. We have, I think, some information, some letter from Sick Kids Hospital, and some other information. We have plans, supporting materials, planning. Forestry is looking for a condition as well. Your conditions 2 and 3. We have letters of objection, and 4 letters of objection. Okay, I understand Mr. Dean is not speaking as agent. Mr. Bronskill is appearing on behalf of the applicant. Mr. Bronskill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon.
Okay, would you like to give us a presentation on this application?
I can do that most definitely. Can I just ask if committee members have access to the materials that we had submitted? It's the little multiple page package. I think it's about five pages or so.
Yep.
I'm just going to, I at times will refer to a couple of pages in that document as I just go through my presentation.
Okay, the statistics, a plan. Supporting material I have here, Mr. Wengel's site plan showing the property. We have the plan. We have some statistics.
What
New Toronto
documents are you
bylaw.
looking for?
And committee staff have helpfully put it on the screen. I appreciate that very much.
Oh.
The supporting material.
That's the package document.
Yeah, that's it there, right?
Yeah.
It starts out with some stats, a drawing.
Yes.
A key plan. And
Thank
then.
you. And is there a can I just ask, sorry to do all this organizational, is the next page then a site plan, a colored? Yes, excellent, that's the right one.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. You do have before you a proposal to construct a new detached dwelling, and as you noted, there are 5 variances. I've appeared before you fairly often. I can tell you this is unique in my career that you have a house design being driven by the needs of the client's 7-year-old son. That's the purpose of the letter that's on file from both the doctor and nurse practitioner at Sick Kids. The 7-year-old son suffers from an incredibly rare and developmentally devastating condition that's known as NACC1 genetic variant, Stickler syndrome.
Yes.
He's a medically complex and fragile boy who requires total care for all of his activities in his daily living, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And the house has been designed with this unique need in mind. As the letter notes, quote, an appropriately adapted environment to ensure his safety as well as that of his care providers. This, as I understand it, the primary planning issue appears to be the floor space index. There is an urban forestry letter with conditions. We're aware of that and we will work with them. When I look through some of the letters, and I would note that none of the tree removals, it appears, are associated with the variances. And so we will certainly be able to work everything through the permit process with urban forestry. The letters noted a concern about the proximity of the rear wall and height. I would simply note for the committee, there are no variances being requested for height or for rear yard setback. There's concerns about grading. We will have to address that through the permitting process. It's not related to the variances. And on coverage, there is a concern expressed with coverage, but through consultation with planning staff, we reduced the coverage down to 33.94% or 34%, just 1% more than the bylaw would require. If I could ask committee staff just to go to page 2 of the presentation for me with my thanks. on this site plan, I just wanted to draw the committee's attention to the red line. That shows the permitted outline of a building under the zoning bylaw. And you can see that we're not actually filling all of it out. There are aspects of it that are not being deployed, and in particular in proximity to the house on the right side of the screen at the rear, there's a staircase leading down, but there's no actual house massing. The blue portion, if I can draw your attention to it, that's the portion of the house that triggers the variances for a house beyond 17 meters. That's it. It's just that little blue portion that sticks out beyond the 17 meters that we need those side yard variances for. So it's really the FSI, and I just wanted to say two things about the FSI. First, as this committee well knows, a numeric analysis is frankly not the appropriate approach. I've reviewed actually some TLAB case law on another matter recently where they have said similar things, that an FSI analysis is not determinative in establishing compatibility of a house. And most importantly, TLAB has said it is clear that the general intent of the official plan is to apply a qualitative test of whether a building will fit, be compatible, and respect and reinforce the character of a neighborhood. These criteria are not quantitative, they are not numbers. The issue we have with the staff report is that it doesn't actually give an acceptable number. Yeah. And I'm not sure how we can review a claim that 0.62 is inappropriate if we don't know the number that staff believe is actually appropriate. This is a two-story dwelling. It's 1% over the coverage. If we remove some FSI from the back to bring it down, it will look the same from the street. There are limited examples of approvals in the area. They range from 0.5 to 0.81, but those numbers frankly don't tell us much about compatibility. And that's the second thing I would say when I look at this site plan. The front wall has been designed, I submit to you, to be compatible as between the two houses. It largely lights up with some architectural interest at the front between the two houses. At the rear, again, the rear wall line has been staggered so that it fits appropriately with both houses on either side. There's no rear setback variance. There's ample room in the side yards to get to the back because we're not pinching anywhere. I submit this house as a two-story dwelling fits and is compatible, and that's the most important part of the tests. So given the unique design constraints, the last thing I would just point out to you before I stop is there's a page in the presentation, just a couple pages on, that shows the blue areas that have had to be included in the house for accessibility reasons. Wider hallways, elevator, ramps for the boy's use of a wheelchair, both now and later in his life. We estimate this is about another 0.7. And so if we weren't doing this for accessibility, the house would actually have a functional FSI of 0.55, not 0.62. And if these spaces were narrowed and taken away, my simple submission to you is I'm not sure the house would look any different from anywhere else on the street or on the lot. This is what's driving the additional FSI, and we still think it fits and is compatible. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bronskill. You know, when I was reviewing the materials, I saw the refusal of variance number 2. I thought, well, one just refused the whole application because obviously without that. And they didn't give any guidance as to what they would find acceptable, if not 0.62.
Yes, sir.
So that's why I just thought, why didn't they just write to refuse the, I saw the summary first on the top, and then I read further, and they really are refusing the whole application when you say that. They didn't give any guidance. Any questions for Mr. Bronskill before we move on to the neighbors, and we can deal with that at that point? Okay, so we have, it looks like 3 people registered to speak. Sorry, 2 people registered to speak. The neighbors at 9 Benedict and 4 Twyford. So let's hear first from 9 Benedict. Is it Mr. Semenik?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Okay,
Sorry.
welcome.
Sir, Mr. Semenik, before you give your presentation, Mr. Grant at 4 Twyford will not be joining us this afternoon. So Mr. Semenik is the only other speaker on this application.
Okay, and I think we do have his letter, though, Mr. Grant, correct? We do have a letter from him, so in lieu of him speaking, we reiterate what he has. We do have his letter and all the other letters on file as well. So we're going to hear from, is it Mr. Terrence Semenek or Zita?
No, it's Terrence.
Okay. Can I, is one, I'm hearing noise, someone talking in the background, so.
Will do really well. I'm sorry, I can't quite hear.
No, I'm saying I could hear someone else speaking, a female voice.
Yeah.
So we have Mr. Peter and Susan Grant's letter, so we're going to take that into consideration, obviously. Although I did have a question for them, but anyway. And we have your letter as well. So if you'd like to just summarize and let us know what you'd like to let us know, we do have your letter.
Okay. I'm unfortunately not at home with all the documents, but from my memory, points 1 just refers to the fact that it's 34 versus 33 percent lot size. And I guess at the end of the day, if I'm on the street and I'm looking, you know, a lateral view doesn't really jump out. Aerial view probably wouldn't be that discernible either. So I'm not too upset about that. But it's a point or a percent more than what normally the bylaws allow. I think the second point is the one about the floor space index.
Yes.
Where 0.62, myself and a couple other neighbors have seen that as quite a variance. I mean, a variance is something small. That's, I think, if you look at the meaning of the word variance, it's small. You're talking 37% more.
Yeah, minor is the word, yeah. So you're saying how can that type of a percentage, and again, we look at the prevailing character, I don't know if you know what your house is at or what other houses on the street, especially those have been rebuilt or repurposed, are at. We don't really look at a percentage, but I take it what you say, how can that be minor if it's going from 401 square meters permitted to 553? It's 153 meters more over 400, whatever that percentage is. But we look at mainly the impact in terms of want to know what the impact is on you and your family. We've heard from Mr. Bronskill that this is necessitated by a child with special needs, although you'll also hear that when you do planning, you don't plan for people, you plan for the property because people do come and
that's
go.
what the city staff report talked about, yeah.
Yes. So can you just give us, you know, what your impact is opposed to saying, well, the percentage, tell me how that impacts your property. Is your property a 1-story? Is it a 2-story? Have your house been improved? How is this going to affect the enjoyment of your property?
We're a side split. And I guess the one concern that I have that I didn't write in that original letter, and when this meeting was postponed till today, I missed the cutoff, I think, of August 4th or 5th to comment more, but in my letter just a couple of days ago to say that I would like to participate, I did write a little bit more, but I guess that's not passed on to you. So there's a window that's on the side looking out over our backyard that's at the end of their hallway, which is at the end of their 2 walk-in closets on the 2nd floor master bedroom.
Right.
My wife had a concern that that window overlooks our entire patio backyard, and really it's a window that's not necessary. There's already windows in the walk-in closets for him and her. I don't see how a window is necessary facing our backyard patio. She felt that was a bit of an invasion of our privacy.
You see, and you're saying it's in order to have a window in a walk-in his and her closet. Those particular windows, you've seen the plans. We'll hear Mr. Bronskill in reply, but you're saying those windows are infringe your privacy and they're not necessary because they're in a walk-in closet.
No, I'm saying the windows that are in the 2 walk-in closets, that's fine because they look out over the backyard. But there's a window at the end of the hallway of the 2 walk-in closets.
I see.
That is the window that looks out over on top of our patio. And I mean, I can't see them needing that window. As far as style goes or architecturally. Do you see that on the 2nd floor master bedroom hallway?
I think we have the plan up here. Okay, we'll let Mr. Bronskill respond to that in his rebuttal. Have you had discussions with the architect or with your neighbors? Have they come to show you the plans, or you didn't just first
No.
find out about this when you got served with the notice in the mail?
No, we did get a package from the architect,
Right.
and it's showing what I'm discussing that we feel is superfluous. It's really not necessary at that end of the hallway where they have light already in each closet.
Okay.
What's the point of a window at the end of the hallway that ultimately looks out over someone else's side yard?
I see. There's like a dressing hall, and then there's the two walk-in, his and her, which have windows on the side of the house, which you're okay with. But then you said there's another window facing the side of the house, like the two walk-in closets face the rear of the house. But you're saying there's also at the end of that hallway, which is sort of like a dead-end hallway in any event, part of it going to her closet, you're saying there's an additional window showing there. I see that window.
That's the way I look at it. Do you not see that?
Yep. I see it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So is that really a window that's necessary?
Okay, I can't answer. We'll hear from Mr. Bronskill when he has a chance to respond. So any other points? You're over your 5 minutes, so.
No, not really, other than the fact that a couple other neighbors have talked about the lack of green space and the permeability of the ground around them and the chances and risk of flooding. That's been a concern over the last number of years. And with a bigger footprint, you're allowing for less grass and ground to absorb all that extra water.
Yeah.
And, would that backyard yet have a swimming pool? There's no swimming pool there mentioned. But if there is, again, then we're talking about further erosion of permeable land.
Yeah. In any event, the other thing, I'm just looking here, and I'll have, I'm going to mention this to Mr. Higgs. They have raised the issue of a special needs son as occasionally why they need this oversized house. But I'll also note it's, like you say, you got his and her walk-in closets. You got a humongous master suite with ensuite. It's a 5-bedroom house with 5 en-suites. My question is, I want to hear from the applicant in response as to, and I hear the issue about the wider hallways and the elevator and all of those things, but it is a 5-bedroom house. Could they not have taken something off somewhere else and make some of the other rooms a little less generous to mitigate the impact on the neighbors than just saying, well, we have a special circumstance. I don't know how many people are living in this house, if it's only 3, but it is a 5-bedroom house with each bedroom having its own ensuite.
That's
so anyway, I'll just throw that out. So, sir, can we go on to? I guess you're the only neighbor, speaking. Mr. Grant, we have his letter, but he's not speaking, and we do have the other letters. So, unless there's anything like to add, let's go back to Mr. Bronskill to respond to your concerns and what I just mentioned, looking at the second floor plan.
Yeah, sorry, if I could just interject one thing. Point number 2 that I made talks about the second floor being just a rectangular prism stacked on a rectangular prism. You had a second floor that's a rectangular triangle. You are incorporating different angles, dormers, different sides to the house that ultimately would reduce the square footage to something that is more in line with what is part of the bylaw.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, for that house to conform, you would have to put it on a lot that's 95 by 150. If you work forward and backwards, those lots are not 95 by 150. So you've got two pounds of butter stacked one on top of the other, pretty square, figuratively speaking.
Okay.
And I think if the way it was designed was changed somewhat on the upper level, it would force the reduction of total square footage to something that might be more in line with the neighborhood. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Semeniuk. Let's go back to Mr. Bronskill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, I just want to get some in your response, because, you and your client did raise this issue, and it's, a real challenge that they have, and I appreciate that challenge, and notwithstanding, you're not supposed to, zone for people, but for property, I certainly do have sympathy. But when I look at the plan and I see that they certainly haven't tried to scrimp on anything else, it's still a 5-bedroom house with 5 en suites and very generous sized rooms. So, you come and you make that comment, and I have certainly a lot of sympathy and want them, they want to do, make this house suitable for their son as he continues to grow, and I certainly appreciate that. But when you do that, you open up and you make that argument, you got to look at the rest of the application, in my mind, to be
For
fair.
sure. And I would say to you, Mr. Chair, a couple of things. One, again, if the at 0.55, I don't think I don't know this, but I don't think planning staff would have as much of a concern, because the range of C of A approvals, as I indicated earlier, is 0.5 to 0.8. So you'd have a very similar house with very similar rooms and needs if you weren't designing for the accessibility concerns.
Yeah.
But secondly, I can tell you this is a family of 5, 2 adults, 3 kids, and the additional bedroom space is also required for part of the 24-hour, 7-day-a-week.
Okay, so you need to
care.
provide a bedroom for caregivers and things like that.
There is an
Okay.
yes, there will be a live-in caregiver. I mean, that's just part of the unique reality here.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
and I take the point about the window in the closet. I was looking at it, and I think it's a desire to have light. I think we can balance the desire to have light with the desire to have privacy, and an appropriate condition would be, a second floor, the rear second floor window should be, frosted or made opaque so that there's no one looking out, but there's still an opportunity for light coming in. That's certainly a reasonable request, and it's one we could accommodate.
Yeah, or you can make the, it's sort of a dead end. You can make her closet even bigger. I'm not that I'm going to challenge Mr. Wengel and Mr. Dean are the experts. I'm certainly no expert, but it's those type of. So you have a 5-bedroom house. So they're not overreaching, and you're saying that it would present no different than a house that's at 0.55.
Correct.
Okay.
Just in terms of any of the stormwater issues, I mean, there is considerable green space. We don't have a landscaping variance of any kind. And in terms of the architectural interest, I'm not sure that I would agree when I look at both the plans and the renderings. I mean, the second floor is a different shape than the first floor. There's lots of architectural elements added to the facades. And it's a sloping roof with dormers. So those front windows into those front bedrooms are actually, with a slightly sloping roof. I actually think it's not 2 stacks of butter, but from the rendering, an actually interesting, intricate, nicely designed home. So, I mean, I hope viewing that rendering might give the neighbor a bit of comfort that it's actually going to look very nice as well.
Okay, committee members, any questions for Mr. Bronskill or for the neighbor, or for that matter, or are we ready for a motion?
Just a bit of commentary first. I think we have a large house on a large lot here. So there's a lot of variances being asked for. And yeah, while we don't plan for people, we do plan for people. And I was told a long time ago, and it's one thing I've always kept in mind, is that there's always one other element present at every hearing, and that's the public interest. and we have to look out for the most vulnerable in our lives. So sometimes we have to take that in mind. So in that context, I'm going to see the variances as minor and in keeping with the zoning bylaw and official plan and desirable and appropriate development. So I'll move for approval. Just going to look for what I'm, and it's subject to forestry conditions 2 and 3.
Okay. Thank you for that motion, Mr. Palmer. We have a seconder for Mr. Palmer's motion. I can. Okay, Mr. Taylor, all in favor? You have unanimous approval. Thank you.
Thank you to the committee. And Mr. Chair, if I can just, I also want to thank staff for getting this rescheduled. I know we're all trying to make everything work in these unique times, and it was a lot of work when this meeting was canceled to get us back here as quickly as possible.
Yeah,
and
sure,
my
because,
client's very,
yeah.
very appreciative.
That was the July 14th meeting, so most of this afternoon and part of this morning was basically taken up with rescheduling those motions, those hearings rather. So we were able to get you on certainly a lot quicker than you would have gone downtown. Okay, so you have your approval, and thank you, and thank you to Mr. Simoniak as well. So our next application is item number 24-212 QUEENSLEA. This was again an application deferred from July the 14th that we have it's some additions. And we have 3 variances. I have a note here about a deferral request to revise the site plan. We have the speaker on this application is Marco Vieira. That's the only registered speaker. Mr. Vieira, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker and members of the committee.
Okay, so this is for some additions, rear addition, attached garage along the east side, a second-story addition above the garage, 3 variances, but I have a note here that you're looking for a deferral?
No, that is incorrect. The deferral, that was from a previous hearing that
Oh,
we
I
had
see.
scheduled
Okay.
because of missing variance.
Right, okay. Oh, so you have that?
Yes. Now we do have the 3 correct variances as
Okay.
per the zoning notice.
Sure, okay, and then we do have a memo from planning. July 3rd, that their comments on building length, revised depth from 19.72 to 19.11 and from 21.94 to 21.33. They're saying their position remains the same.
Yes.
So they want the building length reduced to 18 meters and no access provided to the roof of the 1-story rear addition. So are you opposed to those 2 conditions? Opposed to one of them? Opposed or in favor of both? You want more than 18
No,
meters?
we are opposed to the 18 meters.
Okay.
We've discussed the reduction with planning and also with my client. We did reduce 0.6 meters on the length. I'd just like to clarify that the main reason why the length and depth seem so excessive is because the front yard setback to this existing house actually 0.46 meters in front of the porch, and then that gets added along with the length of the porch, and that gets added to my overall length and depth of the house. The length of the house is only 19.11 meters from front wall to back wall on the first floor. The second floor, we did pull back 1 additional meter on the second floor so that it doesn't extend the full length.
Yeah.
And we've done that for 2 main reasons. One is to keep one of the bedrooms or one of the rooms that's being used as a bedroom in the basement that has a window. We've reduced the size of that window, but we would like to still keep it. 2 is to keep the garage slightly longer than the house because it provides privacy to the proposed deck. For us and for the adjacent neighbor, it does have a large in-ground pool in the back, and we feel that that's a better design option to also provide us with some separation between the adjacent neighbor. As the change in elevation from grade from front to back, it's about 1.1 to 1.2 meters. So that deck in the back is higher than it would be in the front. So we become more elevated in relationship to the grade, and having part of that garage block the view gives us use of the rear deck and doesn't give concern to the neighbors about having the overlook. In terms of the condition from planning to not have the one-story roof being accessible, we fully agree with that, because then that would turn that into a balcony.
Okay, so that you can agree that they don't want it turning out to the balconies. You agree that they're to that second condition. In terms of the first thing, I see they originally were opposed to your longer length before you took half a meter off,
Right.
and then they said after you took half a meter off, they said our position remains the same. Now, you gave us this explanation about the fact that what's occasioning this length variance is, in fact, the front porch. So did you not explain that to community planning, that, in view of their
I did.
comments, that in fact, they should, and this is back in March, so you've had a long time to have, did you get back in touch with them and give them the same argument you're giving us now?
We did, and we've exchanged emails to trying to emphasize that. I went back to my client to see if there was any additional changes that we could offer, and we just couldn't come to the agreement. And the difference is 2.19 meters of the existing front porch and the difference of the setback. And that's essentially what we're asking for, is that 2.19 meters. And that arises from an existing condition. We can't shift the house any closer to the street, and shifting it further back is going to make the length worse. The large, deep lot, we are seriously under in terms of coverage. So we don't feel that is an imposing build form.
Okay, so, and I take it that, I don't know if their position is, well, that's always the case with front porches. It always counts, and you're still 2.11 meter beyond what's permitted, and they only want to give you 1 meter. But what you just said is a very good point, and it's a point that Mr. Taylor often brings up, that you got to look at what else is not being requested. Usually on a new build, but this is an addition, maybe even more so. You're not triggering a height variance. You're not triggering an FSI variance. You don't have a coverage variance. So
correct.
I take what you said, because I know that is a very valid point. If you come and you have 15 variances or 9 variances, in this case you only have 3 variances.
3.
One of which is an existing, the east side lot line is already existing. So you basically
the west
this
side
with a rather modest.
Yeah, west side is existing. Yeah. But the new proposal that we have control on the second floor, we did pull it away from the property line, respect a 1.8 meter setback. So in this particular case, we feel that this is minor, and it warrants the proposal, because it allows the client to better use of the lot, and it's not just a number that's being negative.
Yes. Okay. So it's a very good point. So let's
neighbors.
see if the other members have any questions for you. If someone's ready to make a motion. Okay. And we have on this application urban forestry 1 and 2 as proposed conditions from urban forestry.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'll move for approval. As you alluded to, and you would have anticipated this, sir. I'm strongly influenced by the fact that this doesn't need any yard adjustments, height adjustments for that matter. I find the variance is minor and meeting the other 4 tests under the Planning Act. So I would move for approval, subject to urban forestry conditions 1 and 2, and the planning condition regarding no access to the roof of the first-story addition.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Seconder for Mr. Taylor's motion. Ms. Reddick, all in favor? Unanimous approval.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee.
Okay. We're now going to take a brief 10-minute break before we come back and do item number 25 and so on. Thank you.
Yeah, the one, the guy with the couple of meters of curvature, or the guy that sort of has, we did a new lot that was sort of created from an existing lot or whatever. And I think we had heard the other 10-meter lot. No, 5 and 7. Yeah, 5 and 7. Yeah, I think we heard the other one in the fall. Yeah. And he actually revised the variances in front of us to reduce the side yards and stuff. Hey, what about the couple complaining about the 5-meter side yard? Yeah. That's 20 frickin' feet. Yeah. Give me a break. Yeah. That's from here to that door. Side yard. Yeah, 20. Yeah. Hello. We're crying in a river. We're gonna have to check this out. I just opened the door on my knee.
No. I'll email Chris to create a new one. And then I'll just let Paul know. But we'll have
have to coordinate when to switch it.
Yeah.
Happy to go home an hour ago. Absolutely. But the issue is, you know, to buy a fifth, even today, that's $3 million, build a big house. Okay, so you buy it for, you know, 2 houses there, and they're a little bit smaller, so
Yeah.
who cares? It's still going to be beautiful.
Absolutely.
No.
Oh, yeah.
And that's, you know, in retrospect, hindsight, that's the same thing. You know, those are big lots. We're kind of talking a little cottage. People want to build, you know, have the troubles with this long. And nature changes. Flat roof things. Yeah, that's what soldier houses. Three-story soldiers. It's strange. That's so interesting.
And then, oh, sorry, there was another thing. So for item 26, we have Rick Bongers as the agent. But we haven't been able to reach Lori McKnight, and Anna and Bezel and Courage are the owners, and they won't be on.
Okay, but the neighbor for Lori McKnight, she has concerns, or?
She had initially registered as a participant, but in an attempt to reach her today, we haven't been able to get a hold of her, and she's not on the, like, I tried emailing her, Paul has also tried phoning her, and we've been unsuccessful.
Can do.
Started or?
Okay, so we're ready to get back into our hearing. Next application is item number 25, 69 Humbervale Boulevard. It's an application to construct a partial second story above the existing dwelling and a two-story rear and side yard additions. There are 5 variances. Planning has no objection. There are letters of opposition and letters of support. And Urban Forestry is looking for condition number 2. And we have registered as speakers the agent Danielle Meneguzzi and neighbor at 67 Humbervale, Vicky Stanek. I believe we have a letter from her. Danielle Meneguzzi, are you there?
Yes, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, I'm Daniel Meneguzzi, the agent and owner of 69 Humbervale.
Okay, sir, have you seen the letter from the neighbor?
Yeah, so
first of
I
all, she
did-
claims
I did
something about that
discuss
there's it's showing your house on the drawing. I don't know if she's talking about the survey or the site plan or whatever, is not accurate. There's no cutout on the south side of my house as depicted and drawn in the proposed plan. And she wants to know how that affects the the setbacks if the plan was wrong. And she's concerned with the roof line.
Yeah, so if I may, I did talk to Vicky Stanek at length about this project, and I believe I addressed all her concerns. The jog in the back of the home was simply because the original site plan was taken off the original survey, and it showed a jog. When I got the survey from the actual surveyor, it just shows the house squared off, but it does not affect any of the variances. And in terms of the water, she was concerned about rainwater leaders in her property because the driveway currently abuts right up to my right up to the home. And so I did address that, you know, all water will be directed to the front and rear of the property. And, you know, she said, but, you know, how can that be addressed? And I said, property standards will actually, you know, not allow me to put rainwater leaders onto her driveway. So, you know, that's, you know, I did say that I would send her construction drawings to appease, you know, her for location of rainwater leaders as approved by the building department. So
Yeah,
I did address all of the concerns here. I believe she has no other issues. With regards to the fence, the fence jogs on her property because of the large maple tree at the back of the home. That fence is existing and it's going to stay there. And so, you know, I think this home here, the variances that I'm asking for are minor. You know, I addressed, you know, all the tree concerns. I jogged the house to try to keep all the trees in the property. I'm not chopping down any trees.
Yeah.
And in terms of the scale of the home, you know, it's in keeping with the front. My eaves actually drop a foot, 1 foot 2 inches lower than what's required at the front. Keep the house at a lower scale. Unfortunately, just for construction reasons and building over the existing, my rear eaves is a little higher on item number 5.
Okay, and I note that the addition is more or less skewed, is on the side of number 71, not on the side of 67. The addition that you're
Yes,
building,
so,
a second-story addition. So
well, what I did,
it's not. Let's see what maybe she can let us know whether what her concerns are, and you can respond in your rebuttal. So Vicky Stanek from 67, you with us? Welcome.
Yeah, I am.
Okay,
Hi there.
I see your letter. We just done the applicants has seen it too, the agent. Can you just let us know? So the addition is more or less being built on the other side. So it's less.
What do you mean by the other side? No, it's right against my driveway.
No, I'm saying, but isn't the addition that they're proposing on the second floor going on the side next to 71?
No, closer to my house.
Okay, well, at the
I
back.
don't know, it's not right on top of the existing building.
Right. Okay. So, is there anything else you'd like to tell the committee? We do have your letter.
Well, my only concerns, as I was saying to Mr. Menguzzi, is just having. I had moved my eaves troughs and downspouts because when the water was draining onto my driveway, it was freezing and it was dangerous, so I had to get them moved. So I just wanted to ensure that the change in the roof line from a gable end to a hip roof and where the downspouts were going to be, that weren't going to be going onto my driveway or pouring onto my driveway and causing treacherous conditions in the wintertime.
Okay.
The fence we talked about, yeah, so that's no problem. And again, the trees, I understand that there's no removal of any type of trees at all.
In terms of construction, we don't deal with construction. If you have issues, you speak to the agent or your neighbor, and if there's issues, you can get in touch with the building department or call 311. If there's issues. We don't deal with those issues.
What's that?
Your question, you're saying how my property will be affected during the renovation. So we don't.
Not during. I'm talking about after it's completed with but anyway, we did discuss that with Daniel. He did discuss that, saying that he mentioned that already, that he's going to be putting them in the front, rear, and back. This is all prior to us meeting and having a discussion about them.
Okay,
so,
yeah, because we deal with the variances and the built form. We don't deal with other issues, but okay. So in terms of the actual built form of what the addition, you don't have any issues with that?
No, I'm okay with what he's proposing to build.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Let's see if committee members have any questions for you or for the agent, or if they're ready to make a motion on this. And I see there's urban forestry. Yeah, condition number 2.
Mr. Chair, I find the requested variances meet the four tests under the Planning Act, and I would recommend approval subject to urban forestry condition number 2.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. We have a seconder for Mr. Taylor's motion. Ms. Reddick, all in favor? You have unanimous approval. Thank you. Thank you, neighbor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Okay, our next application is item number 26, 14 AYMARN Crescent. And we have Rick Bongers as agent, and we have, are we able to find the neighbor from number 4? The neighbor at number 14 is the applicant. I don't know if they're going to be participating, but we have one neighbor, Lori McKnight, at number 4.
So, Mr. Chair, she did register to participate. We've attempted to call and email several times, and we haven't heard back. So
Okay.
it's up to the chair if you want to proceed in her absence.
Well, I guess we have, she's not right next door. We don't have any letters from anyone, either planning or area neighbors, any other neighbors, and she is not right next door. She's number 4. I assume there's not a jump of 6 numbers. I'm just going to pull up the location map to make sure that there's not some anomaly and she is next door. Not to say that people other than the people next door can't have issues, but can someone see that I can't get the numbers to come up on my map? Okay. In any event, that's what we have. We have no communication on this application. Okay. Mr. Bongers.
Yes.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Okay. Well, you were with us this morning too, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So this is a one-story south side addition, a second-story addition above the existing dwelling, and a second story covering the balcony, and we have 3 variances. We have no communication from anyone on this. What about the front? Can I just ask you a question about the front balcony? Is it off a bedroom or off a common area?
It's off of a bedroom, actually. And we reduced the size of that balcony through negotiations with the planning department. They felt more comfortable around, I believe, 10 square meters.
Okay, that's what
we
I have.
reduced it to.
Why? How much
yeah,
was it before? I have it showing up at 10 square meters. Did you actually have it even larger?
A little bit larger, not much.
Okay.
That was,
Okay, but
about
what you
10
want is before us at 10 square meters, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
For the record, the homeowners have spoken with the neighbors around the property. They have a petition format letter of support from 3 neighbors. The neighbor directly to the south, probably most impacted by the balcony, has reviewed the plans and are comfortable with the project. Nothing in writing from them. They didn't feel comfortable to put it to paper, but even the one direct to the south is fine with the project as well.
Okay.
And also of note, there's a huge tree in the front yard, so visually you're not going to see much of that second floor terrace from the road, and conversely you're not going to see much of the road from the terrace. It's just for natural light and a bit of outdoor space.
Okay. Okay, committee members, any questions for Mr. Bongers, or are we ready for a motion?
I'll move for approval. Variances requested are minor in nature and meet the tests of the Planning Act.
Yeah, and there's no conditions.
No conditions.
I don't believe. No,
Oh,
there's
private
urban forestry. Urban forestry too.
Urban forestry, private tree permit.
Thank you. Seconder for that motion? Mr. Taylor, all in favor? You have unanimous approval. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bongers. Okay. Okay, our next application is item number 27. It's an application to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. There are 5 variances, and I have a note here that, and I see we have a number of people registered, including Michaela Silva, the agent, as well as various neighbors. The neighbor at 365 Rustic, 2 people registered, as well as Mr. Epstein representing them, Mr. Norman Epstein. However, I do have a note here, and I have to find it, that the applicant is requesting a deferral. There's a request for deferral. Is that a current one or from when it was up last time?
It's a current one, Mr.
It's a
Chair.
current one, okay. That's what I thought. I had a note in my notes when I went through this. So, you're Michaela? Michaela Silva?
Yes, I am. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So, yeah, you said you'd like to submit a revised site plan with
yes.
the revisions, as well as a waiver with the revised variances and letter. To address the revisions made, we have the neighbor's full support and would like to schedule an next available. So you're making changes which you can tell us about that is now worthy of support. The neighbors are in favor of your application with these changes. So you'd like to,
Okay, yes,
you'd
of
like to
course.
defer. Have you spoken to are the neighbors on site? It's particular the neighbor at 369
Yes, yes, the reason why I want to defer is basically I've met with neighbors at 369 and 365.
Yep.
And after discussing the proposal, we've agreed to shift the house a foot, so 0.3 meters to the west side yard lot line.
Uh-huh.
And what that does is it adds, unfortunately, it adds a variance to our proposal.
Okay.
And at the time that the public hearing notices were sent out, it was too late to add this variance. And so therefore, I would like to, come back to the committee, to the next available
I
hearing.
understand. So
that-
you're going to make
yeah.
changes to appease the neighbors, and you're shifting it, and it's
Yes.
going to create another variance. So you have to defer, and
Yes.
everyone's on side with that deferral. So let me just check. Do we have is Mr. Epstein here representing the Nan Kumars at 365, or is this people from 365 on the line? Okay, so just want to hear from someone that says they agree or they're in favor of the deferral. And I guess, Michaela, what you do is once you make the changes, you'll get in touch with staff and they'll recirculate and put you on the next available agenda. So do we have someone
Yes,
from 365 to speak for the record that you're okay with the deferral?
This is Norman Epstein. Yes, we consent to the deferral.
Thank you, Mr. Epstein. And now the neighbor at 369, Ricciardi Michelina,
Who is Mr. Epstein representing?
365.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, we haven't been able to contact Ms. Ricciardi after extensive efforts to email her and reach her by telephone.
Okay.
We've been unsuccessful, so she's not on the line.
Okay, anyway, we've heard from Michaela, and so the matter is, she'll have a chance to appear when the matter is rescheduled. So wishes. So can we have a motion on the issue of the deferral request?
Mr. Chair, I'll move for deferral to enable changes to be made.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Seconder for that motion. Ms. Ruddick, all in favor? Unanimous. We'll see you back here again.
Okay, so just
Okay, great.
to
Thank you so
let
much.
the applicant know, right now we don't have dates past September, and we're going to be giving priority to make sure all the new applicants get a chance to be heard before we reschedule any deferred items, because it's hard to get a spot on the virtual hearings, okay?
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next item is item number 28, 241 Maple Leaf Drive. This is this is a 2-story rear addition and a 1-story front addition. There are 2 variances, length and depth. Extensive. We have a lot of opposition. They primarily, to me, looked like they were use complaints regarding the use of the property. And as well, we have a letter from the area councillor, Councillor Nunziata, weighing in on this application as well. We've seen her letter, and I believe she's opposed to the application. Just check that. Yeah, the two-story addition. I don't know if, I believe, is she only going to be on the line? I believe she's registered, so.
Yeah, Mr. Chair,
Okay,
we
so
have.
we have registered for this Jan Timstra, the agent, and then we have
Yes.
the neighbors at 239 Maple Leaf, Francisco Splendoro. We have someone else, we have him registered twice, actually, under two different, well, he just registered, just the name is just duplicated. And we have as well the neighbor on the other page at 243, Manuela and Ezio Angelucci. So we have two neighbors and the area councillor, and we have the applicants. Let's go to the agent first. Jan or
Hi.
Jan Timstra. Hello.
Yes, this is Jan Teamstra.
Okay. Welcome.
I'm the agent and architect for the project.
Okay. So first of all, have you seen the file? Have you checked the file and you see that there is opposition, including opposition from the area councillor?
No, I haven't seen. I mean, I checked earlier yesterday. I didn't see that notice. I did see the one from listed by Mr. Splendirio, who sent one out to all the neighbors. So we did review that.
Okay. Yeah, you gave a copy of the letter you sent to the neighbors.
Yeah.
So can you explain this? I appreciate you don't have very many variances. You just you have length and depth. I don't know if that deals with the wheelchair ramp, or can you explain why you have such a large length and depth variance?
Okay, the proposal for the house was to provide wheelchair accessibility for Mr. Martella, who is confined to a wheelchair and needs full assistance.
Yep.
So the idea of that house was to design it so that he has accessibility both in the front of the house and at the back of the house. So the proposal for the addition at the back, the two-story addition, plus a basement walkout at the back, which is similar to the house at 239. The existing house, it's an open plan to make it much more accessible for the wheelchair. It's an extra large wheelchair because Mr. Martella is a big gentleman. The ground floor has a bedroom plus an accessible washroom. The addition at the back, a stair, an elevator, and for Mrs. Martella, and a covered deck that wheelchair accessible also, so that he would have some access to the outside. The second floor extends over top of it. The second floor is just a one room. It's basically it's an art studio. And the
Sorry,
basement is a
can you
family
repeat
room.
that? You're having trouble following me. Can you speak a little clearer and louder, please? What did you say about an art studio?
Okay, sorry. It's a studio. It's a space upstairs for Mrs. Martella for her artwork.
Okay, first of all,
basement is a family room.
Yeah. What about the why should the what about the depth and the length? That seems excessive.
Well, the depth and length is to accommodate the depth and length is to accommodate really the main first floor, which we need the extra bedroom on the main floor.
Yeah.
We need a wheelchair accessible, and we wanted to have a covered deck for being outside, because the property is sloped. So basically, it's a basement walkout. So that's why we have the elevator, so we can get outside to the backyard. And we have a deck on the first floor, which is covered over by the second floor. And what we had looked at in regards to the size, the second floor, in order to reduce the mass, because it's a basement, plus the first and second floor, is to reduce the second floor by setting it back 3 feet to break up the 3-story high wall.
Yeah.
And also to have the recessed deck, as opposed to having a balcony that sticks out, we recess the deck inside the house, so we don't have that length on it.
Yeah. You have enough of a length problem.
We've had
also, what's the, I normally don't focus on this, but it seems to be an override. What's going on with this property? It's not being rented out. You're telling me the applicant is living there and he's confined to a wheelchair. There's talk about construction bins for years. There's talk about tarps in the backyard with commercial equipment or furniture. What's going on this property? You know?
Okay, basically, they sold their house and bought this property in order to make it wheelchair accessible because it's a bungalow.
So they're a new purchaser? Did they just purchase?
Yeah, the new owner. So nobody's living in the place. It's being renovated. The two storage bins out front are house possessions from the previous house that they sold while they're trying to renovate this house. The tent in the backyard, again, it was just temporarily there till they just to store some of their possessions. And when we were looking at the July 14th hearing, there were 3 letters of objection, one from each side and one from across the street. Both one on number 243 and the one across the street.
Yeah.
Their concern was not the length of the building. In their letter, they were concerned in just the use of the building, the construction site. It's taking a long time to do it.
Who's that? The people across the street?
There was no mention about having to, at number 232.
It's across the street. So obviously the people across the street are less concerned with the depth and length than the people on either side or the people behind. If you're living across the street,
right. I mean,
you're not worried about the rear yard condition, right?
No, and most of the ones, if you look at the numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there's 6 across the street that are objecting.
Yeah.
What surprised us was that we sent out a letter to the neighbors for the July 14th hearing. We received 2 letters which were more concerned about the property use, not the condition of the length of building.
Yeah.
And the neighbor next door on the Mr. Frank, sorry, I keep forgetting his name here. His house is a 3-story house. It has a recessed deck in it also. It's similar to the addition we're putting out the back.
Yeah, but you're going back further than they are. That's why they're concerned.
We are going back further than they are. Their house is. Their existing house is a little longer than our existing house, but we are going back further than his house. We've met with him. We met with a couple of the other neighbors for the July 14th hearing and reviewed it with him, explained what we were doing. And at that time, he said he'll talk about it. There was no other objections from any of the other neighbors. Now all of a sudden we've got this other objection letter from 12 neighbors altogether that came out of the blue which totally surprised us. And it says, why are they suddenly objecting? And none of them really have sent a letter to say object or what their issues are. It's just a letter sent by the neighbor on the west side to say we object to it. So we have no idea what they're objecting to this.
Well, as sometimes happen on a neighborhood, the people on the other side, of the street, are writing in to support their neighbors on your side, on the side of the subject property side of the street, who are concerned with the depth and length, worried about either precedent or supporting their neighbors. But what I jumped up at, and when you woke me up, is when you said, well, the neighbors on the other side of the street aren't concerned with length and depth. Well, obviously they're not. They're not looking. They're not impacted by that. It's the neighbors either behind or on either side who are impacted by depth and length variances, right? So.
Yes, I understand.
No big surprise there.
No, but there was also further down the street at 251, 253, 255. They're also, when you look at the plan of the street, they're also exceptionally long houses.
Oh, so you're saying other people on the odd side of the street have also done rear additions that have large variances for depth and length?
No, like 251.
Did they come to committee? Do you have a copy of those decisions?
No, I do not have a copy of it.
Okay.
But in comparison, when I look at the plan, the street plan, and I look at the length of the house and the house, they're longer with the garage attached at the front than our house.
Okay. And your client, you said, recently purchased this house. Did they go meet their neighbors? Did they say, hi, we're your new neighbors? You're not going to see as many problems with people going to the rear yard, and we're going to clean up the property.
No, I mean,
that might have.
When they got the house and they started to do some work on the house, the neighbor at 239, which is on the one side, Mr. Splendario, they had met, they had chatted, they seemed to be fine. When we met with them in regards to the variance, they didn't say, they said, we talked about it, we reviewed it. He's been in and out of the house, when they first moved into the house. I think a lot of it has to do with just the condition of under construction for
Yeah.
a long time.
Right.
Which is
Okay.
about, might be about a year and a half. And
What do
that's
you mean,
why,
what's
like,
been,
the two
sorry,
stories
what's been
isn't
going
in
on
there
for a year and a
yet.
half? What's a year and a half? How long is your clients
Well,
on the house?
when they started the work on the house and had the 2 storage bins out front.
So they've owned it for over, when they're talking, there's been bins for 2 years. Are they talking about your client or a previous owner?
Well, when I talked discussing with the owner, she told me that they've been there about they've been there like about a year and a half.
Okay. Anyway, let's hear from the neighbors and you'll have a chance to respond, sir. Is, first of all, is the counselor there? Are we hearing from the counselor? She's registered as a speaker. Perhaps we can let her go first.
Okay, well, thank you very much, and I did submit in a letter. Can you hear me?
Yes. Welcome.
Okay. I did submit a letter which was dated August the 6th.
Yep.
And as well, I have a petition with the residents on the street as well. So I did meet with the residents, and I did go out to the property, and as it was mentioned, the 2 abutting neighbors have expressed a strong opposition to the application.
Right.
And I'm looking, for the variances, the maximum, the building length really is a concern of mine. When I was there, and as the agent mentioned, so there's been restaurant equipment that has been stored in the backyard with a tarp on it for, I believe, for approximately 2 years. And what concerned me as well is that they built a deck, a massive deck that covers practically 3/4 of the backyard. And then they're asking for that addition. And in my opinion, it's not a minor variance, especially the building length, which is required 17, and they're asking for 24.9.
Yes.
And the building depth. So it really, if you go to the backyard and see what they have built, and I might say that I'm checking with municipal licensing and building to see if in fact needed a permit or not, but they have built this massive deck. And so with the extension and the addition, I believe that it will go right onto the deck that they built.
Right.
And yeah.
It's a raised deck? Is it a raised deck or is it on at grade?
It's a raised deck.
So that should be included in the site specifics.
Yeah, and it's like it covers 3/4 of the backyard.
And then the rest of it's covered by tarps, you said, with restaurant equipment.
At the back of the property, there's a tarp with and it looks like it's restaurant equipment or whatever. It doesn't, like, it's not household equipment. That's what it looks like to me.
Well,
but I was out there with the inspector. When he seen the deck, he says, "Oh my God, I've never seen a deck. It looks like a banquet hall. It's so big."
Okay.
But the length of, in my opinion, it's the length of the addition really is the concern of the 2 abutting neighbors. And
we hear you.
As I said, I was there, and I have concerns with that as well. And I know that the residents did sign a petition, but unfortunately they didn't get it into the committee in time. So with the variances that they're asking for, and I'm looking at I just took looking at the homes on Maple Leaf, and really with this addition and with the variance that they're asking for, it really isn't in character with all the other homes on that side of the house, on that where the house is. And so I have deep concerns about that, and I know that the licensing, they're looking at that, and as well as the building department on what they have built now, that, that's not part of the Committee of Adjustment request. So I have deep concerns, and I'm asking the committee to refuse this application.
Okay, thank you, Counselor. Perhaps you can have the property standards people attend at the property to see what's, with the storage or, which has gone on for an excessive amount of time of commercial equipment. If there's something, as well as, I guess they have to go see, and we'll hear from the agent, whether this deck is part of their application and been included in the statistics. So we hear you. Thank you.
Yeah, the deck is not part of their application.
Okay.
The deck has been built.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see in their plans. I'm just looking at their plans to see if it shows on their plans or not. It doesn't show.
I've got pictures of the deck, but I don't know if I can get it to you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it looks like the proposed deck is going to be sort of inset, so maybe they're planning on sort of, it's going to be squared off. So one half is going to be the proposed main floor bedroom, and the other half is going to be the deck. So it's not going to protrude any further, but it's obviously triggering the variance, perhaps. So we'll hear back. So thank you very much for your input in your letter, and we know your position is you agree with the neighbors it should be refused.
Yeah, but I do believe that what they have built is not part of the Committee of Adjustment application.
I think they're probably planning that they're going to get rid of that in order to build this, what they're proposing to do.
Well, no, it's a huge deck, and they've put up there's railings on it. It's so there's no way they're going to remove that. They just built it.
Is it on the right side of the property, or does it go right across?
It's the back of the property.
Okay. Okay, we'll ask the agent about that, and you can listen in and hear his response.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Councillor.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's hear from the neighbor at 239. Francisco Splendorio. Is Francesco there, please? Okay, then let's hear from the Angelutis. Manuela and Ezio at 243.
There, hi there, sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, this is Ida. So we've got Manuela and Ezio Angelucci here, and Frank Splendorio is over here as well.
Oh, okay.
And I'm here as well. Okay, sorry.
So speak first, Frank.
We were gonna let, I guess we'll let, should you want me to start
Frank,
first? Or
you can
Frank?
talk first, Ida.
Okay, so I'm going to hear from two people. One from,
No, you've got three people here.
yeah, but no, two of them from one address?
No, one from each address.
Okay, so please give me your name and address before you speak, so we know who's saying what.
So let me start, because mine's very short and sweet. I'm Ida D. Tomasis, and
Okay.
I live at 232 Maple Leaf Drive.
Oh, okay, we had your address but no name. So Ida?
Ida, yeah.
Oh, it's on the next
Tomasis?
page. Oh, I see it, okay. Ida and Antonio Di Tomasis.
Yes,
Welcome.
Antonio, and I'm speaking on behalf of us. Thank you.
Okay, sure.
And
What's
then-
let us
then-
know your concern. You're
Okay,
across the
so
street.
My concern was this. I received a letter on July 2nd regarding this public hearing notice.
Yep.
It was hand delivered. My husband got the letter. I had no idea what these people were doing in front of our property. They've had bins there for 2 years. There's been garbage bins and bins. So I actually walked over and I went over to 243 to my friends at 243.
Yeah, 243.
Noticed that, from 243, because I was looking onto 241 to kind of do my own investigation. I had no idea what was going on with this committee. This was the first thing that had initiated the letter that I sent to the Committee of Adjustments on July 7th with the concerns, right? So what I've noticed is that they have, first of all, on the initial drawing, there's no deck on this drawing. So I had great concerns. Was there a permit for this deck? Because this deck is not a minor variance. It is a deck that has a gross overextension of the property.
30 by 40.
And the application to me didn't reflect a minor variance, nor did I ever see the owners of this property, nor the architect of this property. And it impacts my property because I've had some safety issues pulling out during this time period because people are double parking, and I've addressed it with MLS. And
Okay,
the safety
ma'am, let's just hear
So-
about the build form now. I know
Yeah,
there's
I'm
enough
getting
issues with
scared.
use and the bins and everything, but let me just hear about the
Yeah.
build form and
Yeah.
about what they're
So
proposing. You don't
variance-
feel the length is appropriate, correct? Because that deck, I'm not
No,
sure that, yeah.
It's a gross overextension of the property.
Yep.
And there was no image on the drawing here that actually showed that there was a deck or a cover. We've gotten nothing after that. So I was really frustrated, so I went and put a petition together for the minor just letting the people, because there's neighbors in this neighborhood. It's an older community. And sometimes people get intimidated to talk, but there are a lot of people that are upset. So I moved forward and put a petition together. There's over 12 neighborhood residents here that, in their opinion, it's not a minor variance. So I feel that at least the planning department should come out and have a look at this and address our concerns, because they were never addressed.
Okay, thank you.
So that's my take.
Okay, thank you. And like in terms of the petition, don't worry, we have the most affected people before us here, being the two adjacent neighbors, you across the street. We have the counselor weighing in, so the fact that we haven't seen this petition is not a big issue, because we do have the parties who are most affected weighing in on this, okay?
Okay.
So
Thank you.
thank you.
Who would you like to speak next?
Okay, so let's hear from now we heard from 232. Now we have the neighbors on either side. Do we have any of them back, Adam? Adam, we have anyone back on the line, either 239 or 243?
So my understanding is that they're all on the same line.
Oh, right, you're with Mr. Angelucci. Okay, that's right, you got together. I hope you're within the same bubble. So let's hear from Mr. Angelucci.
Okay.
Angelucci?
Good afternoon. My name is Manuela Angelucci, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself and my husband, Ezio Angelucci.
Yep.
And residents of 243 Maple Leaf Drive. We've been living at this residence 26 years, and my husband is also partial owner of 222 Maple Leaf Drive and has owned that property since 1968. So that's 52 years that we've been in the neighborhood.
Okay, 222?
I said 52 years.
Address is 222, and you're also 243, right?
243, we own 243, but my husband is also partial owner of 222 Maple Leaf.
Okay, so thanks for 243 is obviously the one that we're concerned with.
Okay, so I'm just telling you how long we've been in the neighborhood, 52 years, okay?
Wonderful.
We have been happy, but unfortunately, the last 2 years we've been in an upside down situation with this property, 241 Maple Leaf Drive, that we are discussing today, okay? We are very concerned with the extension that the new homeowner wants to make to 241 Maple Leaf Drive. We are very concerned that it will be out of proportion compared to the surrounding dwellings, and that it will affect our view to our surrounding neighbors and properties, as well as blocking our sunlight, and particularly that it will bring down the value of our property. We have been paying taxes on our property for 26 years, and I don't think it is in our best interest to allow such a massive construction so close to our home. Also, there is a deck that has been built in the backyard, which is not 4 feet from the fence and property line on both sides. I was informed by our surrounding neighbors that this deck is to have a roof. Does a deck require a permit before it is built? Because if so, why has it been built already? Also, I am concerned about when we get a major rainstorm, which we have had a few already this year. The water on the deck has no place to drain, and as a result, drains on our property. I am concerned about future damage to our land. I work hard to take care of my property and have paid good money for it. I don't want someone else's property to damage mine. Some of our surrounding neighbors have received a written letter from the owner, 241 Maple Leaf Drive, giving proposed changes. We have not received such a letter. Also, I address that we have had Mr. Dale Robson, manager of the building inspections, on August 4th, come over from the City of Toronto to view the property, and we are waiting for his concerns and comments in return. We have also met with Councillor Francis Nunziata at the property, and we have addressed our concerns, as well as surrounding neighbors were present at this meeting with Ms. Nunziata, and they have also addressed their concerns. I would also like to know if these impacts can be evaluated by the planning department. Maybe a representative from the department can come over to observe for themselves what we are looking at on a daily basis, therefore delaying your decision in granting permission for construction. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, let's now hear from the last neighbor at 239. You're together there as well. Francisco?
Hi. Hi, my name is Frank Sblendario from 239 Maple Leaf Drive. I've lived here for 45 years. I built my own house, yes. And it is two-story house and a little longer than what the bungalows are, which was approved way back 30 years ago.
Yep.
And outside of that, I'm very, very happy. And I was very happy with my new neighbor. She has problems with her husband. However, she never told me anything about what she was doing. And she said she wanted to put an extension. And I said, I think 5 meters would be sufficient. It would be quite enough. Now, according to these papers, I read 8.9 meters extra, plus the deck. That's another, I'm going to give you that in feet. I think it's about 35 by 35 feet square in the backyard. And it's no foundations. And it says, according to our letter, if I may read, it says the second phase of the project is to consider a rear two-story addition, which will include covered deck on the first floor and an elevator.
Yeah, we have a copy of that letter in front of us here. That's the letter dated July the 2nd that they sent out to the neighbors, correct?
Okay.
Yeah, we have that letter, sir.
Now, she's pitched a tent in the very back of the yard, and which is now half destroyed through the weather.
Yep.
But she's got a bunch of restaurant equipment in there. That's old equipment, old wood. It doesn't matter what she's got. She's got it. I'm reading your letter that says according to requested variances, section 110-20-40-20, bylaw 569.
Yes, sir. Don't read us those numbers, please. We know that they're looking for length and depth.
The maximum permitted building length is 17 meters.
Yep.
Allowed dwelling will have a length of 24.9 meters. The same one, then it says number 2, the maximum permitted building depth is 19 meters. An altered dwelling will have a depth of 26.33. I'm sorry, my English language, I've been here too many years and I don't understand it quite. What's the difference between length and depth? Why is it 2 meters difference between one and the other? If the length is only supposed to be 17 or 19 meters, what's the depth and the length got to do?
It's a measurement issue. We'll let the applicant explain that, how that was done. But that's just the way they measure it, and they are obviously going well beyond, and you have a problem with that, right? You think it's too long and too deep, correct?
It's very, yes, it is very too long.
Yes.
And plus, overall, the whichever one you want, which is either not 26 meters or 24 meters, whichever one you want. Plus, she's got and now I'm going back to feet. She's got at least a 30 by 35 foot deck.
Yes, sir.
And which, according to the letter, which you say you have, it says covered deck in the backyard.
Okay, sir, I don't know if you have a copy of the plans, but we'll hear from him. It looks like they're planning on putting the deck beside the new ground floor bedroom on the ground floor. So on the right side will be the deck, on the left side will be the bedroom and the elevator. So obviously, I don't know about the existing deck that which they've built. Maybe they're planning on demolishing that or demolishing part of it so it fits.
No.
But I appreciate you're all telling me. So the property standards people are going to come out to look at the existing deck and to look at the stuff they're storing in the rear. Okay?
That's
So
fantastic.
That's good.
Thank you. Thank you.
So now we have to deal with the main issue here, though, is to deal with this application before us for these variances. And thank you for your submissions. We're now going to give the applicant or the agent an opportunity to respond to everything you've had to say, and then we're going to take it into committee to make a decision. Okay, so thank you for your submissions. So let's go back to Mr. Timstra.
Yes.
Can you please respond to this? And please, in your explanation and rebuttal, please explain what the story is with the existing deck and with the proposed deck as shown in your drawings, because the neighbors seem to think that that existing deck is part of your final plan, as opposed to...
I understand.
So please, please give us your response.
Sure. Just starting with the planning department, they had reviewed the project. Their only comment was that the second floor windows that face both the east and west sides of the two neighbors be raised up so that you can't look out of them, in which we did. So they're 6 feet off the floor, and you can't look out at your neighbor from the second floor, east or west side. In regards to number 243 with no contact, I had delivered the letters to all the neighbors except for the one on the east and west side, because the owners were going to meet with them or tried to meet with them or talk with them to say this is what we were planning on doing. They did get a copy of that. They did eventually get a copy of that letter. Regarding the, I guess the deck, I think we had met with the owners at 239 before the July 14th meeting, and I explained to him what the covered deck was about. And I said it's the first floor deck where the second floor extends over top of it. And he has the exact same situation. He's got a first floor deck that's on the same southwest corner, and it's got a second floor extending over it. So it's not the deck that's built there in the backyard now. When we made the application for Committee of Adjustment, this was back in March. The deck was built, I think maybe about a month and a half ago. Now the deck.
Hold on, it was built a month and a half ago?
Yeah,
without a permit, obviously.
It's actually, because the deck is less than 2 feet or 0.6 meters above grade, it's actually considered a landscape platform and doesn't require a permit.
But
the deck size itself, and I measured it, is 28 feet by 38 feet.
Is that intended to stay, or that has to be removed if you get a permission to build this rear addition?
Well, no, because the addition only the idea was that the platform was so that we have a flat surface of which the wheelchair can be on, because the property slopes from north to south, so it has slopes downward. The addition actually comes to within 1.6 meters of the deck, so that you would have a good transition from the basement to the top of the deck, which is about 6 inches above grade at one end and less than 0.2 meters at the south end of it. Now the deck itself, measuring the deck, it doesn't cover a half or 3/4 of the backyard. With the deck itself, there's still a 25-meter rear yard setback from the existing deck that was built to the backyard. So the deck is, I don't know where they have the numbers from. Sorry. Where the numbers came from. But the deck itself is 28 by 38. It still sits 25 meters from the backyard, and it will sit 6 feet, 5 feet, actually 1.56 meters from the addition. Now,
So-
the reason for the deck and not, we had a choice. You could do a patio. Now, the problem with the patio is that we would have to raise the grade because it slopes towards the south. We'd have to raise the grade up in order to have a flat surface area for the wheelchair accessibility. Rather than doing that, which would cause water problems, because then you're creating a much larger surface area where water is not going to go through. Whereas a deck built above the grade will have water being able to go through it.
So
that's
you're
why-
telling
that's
me
why
that this
wood
deck
deck
that
is
was
not-
just built, so hold on. If you're telling me this bed deck is gonna remain in place, it's been built such that it will accommodate the addition that's proposed in front of it,
Yes.
and that
We
it's
had a building
designed as a
inspector
ramp for
net-
the wheelchair.
Yes. So basically, at one end of it, it's at the north end of it, where the addition would be, it sits about 6 inches above grade, and at the other end, it is less than 2 feet. So it becomes a landscape platform, so just like you would have as it would be a stone patio or a concrete patio. But that gets to be a water problem for the neighbors on each side, and we didn't want to do that. The other thing also is, what else was there? Sorry, I just. That deck is not a covered. I think the neighbor at 239 was concerned that that platform was going to have a roof over it. It's not. That the deck we were talking about with a covered roof is the one that's on the first floor, the second floor extended over it, just like 239 has, exact same situation.
Okay, so you're saying that the
regarding
covered
to-
one is the one on the second floor? The one that
on
shows
the
on the
first
right
floor.
side of your plan?
Yeah, on the first floor, that's a covered deck with the
Uh-huh.
second floor extending partially over it, because the second floor actually steps back 3 feet. So that was to have at the first floor level, to be able to be outside at a covered area with wheelchair accessibility. Because the property, it's a basement walkout, all the property slopes towards the back. Even at 239, they have a basement walkout, they have a first floor, it's got a covered deck on the first floor, and they got a second floor extended over top of it.
Okay, so you see the bedroom you have on your plan. I'm looking at plan, is there a number on this plan? I don't see it.
Yeah.
Your plan where you have your proposed bedroom after the kitchen, the ground floor
Yes.
bedroom. And then you have a proposed deck next to it that looks like it's 11.91 times, can't quite read it here.
Yeah, it's 13 feet by 9 feet.
Okay, what is that? That's not the deck that was
that's the
built.
deck. No, that's part of the addition, that's part of the new construction.
Okay,
proposed.
and then beyond that is where the new 20-something by 35 deck is. Right,
That's
beyond that wall.
Yeah, it's 6 feet past the proposed addition.
Right, the
Because we have to
proposed
have- we have to
bedroom
be able to have
and
some-
proposed deck, covered deck.
Yeah, so basically, yeah, the first floor addition's got the elevator in it, so we can get down to the basement. It's got the bedroom in it for Mrs. Martella, because her husband's in his own bedroom with because of the size of the wheelchair and the size that's required to get in there.
Yep.
And we have a laundry room on the first floor also, which makes it more convenient for changing and
Wash-
stuff.
Yeah.
And washroom.
Yep.
And he has a wheelchair accessible washroom.
Yep.
That's the first floor.
Okay, so are those your response to the issues raised by the neighbors? Let's bring it into committee to see if there's any remaining
Well,
questions.
there is one item I'd like to point out. The letter I'd sent to the neighbors gave them phone numbers and addresses and emails and stuff or whatever to contact us to say if they have any questions or concerns. Nobody except for number 239, where we had met with the neighbor, contacted us to say we have some issues with it. We didn't get any contact from the counselor to say we're having a meeting. Would you like to come and join us? To say, to talk to the neighbors about it and have a discussion on it. We were never informed about that. And so, we were looking at, back in July 14th, just the two neighbors who said they were concerned about the use of the property. And the other thing about the 10 at the back, and I'm just texting from my client, there are no commercial stuff back there. It's all personal stuff.
Okay, anyway,
There isn't-
we'll
there is
have
no
property
commercial
standards come out
equipment
and deal
back
with
in
that,
there.
okay?
And we've
Okay,
had a
thank
building
you.
inspector look at the deck that's built,
Okay,
and he had no issues with it.
so you're saying the deck you're saying is legal, it's not before us? It's a plat,
Building
it's
inspector looked at it
it's
and
not high
considered
enough
it
to
as
be a deck.
landscape- That's right, it's not a deck, it's a landscape platform.
Okay.
As opposed to a patio.
Okay. Committee members, any questions for the agent or the neighbors? Are we ready for a motion?
For the applicant, can you tell us the length and depth of the existing house? And what
Sure.
the additional length and depth would be?
Okay, hang on. So the existing length of house, which would be from the garage to the back of the house, is 18.96 meters. Actually, it's on the site plan. That's the length of that's the existing length of the house.
Okay, so that exceeds the bylaw already.
That already exceeds the bylaw as it is, yeah. And most of the houses along that area, when you're looking at the plan, already do that.
Okay, so your clients have caused themselves issues because of the way they used the property before they made this application. So that's really where all their headaches are. I think.
I agree.
Okay, I can pragmatically look at this, and you've got another 36 meters of rear yard there that you're not doing anything with. So you've got a really deep yard here. So there's room
Well,
for
actually,
this.
sorry to interrupt, but it's actually would be 41 and a half meters from the existing house for the rear yard.
Okay, I'm not asking for any questions here.
Okay.
I think I'm done with my questions in case anyone else has any.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions for the applicant or for the neighbors? Okay, is someone ready to make a motion?
Yeah, I think I can pragmatically look at this and look beyond the issues that the applicant has created for themselves with storing stuff on site and creating a big deck or landscape feature that has annoyed the neighbors. We're talking about a very small addition here. So I can look at that as being minor and in keeping with the official plan and zoning bylaw. So I'll move for approval.
There's no conditions.
And no conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Palmer, for the motion. Do I have a seconder for the motion? Sophie, are you prepared to, I don't think, okay, so the motion fails. Can I have another motion, please?
I find the requested variances don't meet any of the 4 tests under the Planning Act. I think a 7 to 8 meter length extension is excessive, certainly not minor. I don't think the proposal is desired for the appropriate development of the land. I don't find that the general intent and purpose of the city's bylaw are maintained, and I don't believe that the general intent and purpose of the official plan are maintained. In short, I find this property to be inappropriate for the needs of the owner. It's the wrong house on the wrong street. And I move refusal.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Seconder for that motion. Sophia Reddick, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 3-1. The application is refused.
Okay, Mr. Chair, before we continue with the next item, our YouTube stream is about to end. So Paul, if you want to end that now. Anyone who is watching over YouTube, there is a new one created. There is a limit to them, so we've had to create a second afternoon stream for today's date, so August 13th, Committee of Adjustment, Etobicoke, York. We'll just give Paul a moment to start that stream and for members of the public to find it and start watching if that's where they're participating.
Madam Secretary